The Fantasmagorium show proudly presents Set to Stun, a Star Trek show that is an irregular one. Stardate 20232.16. Picard Season 3, Episode 1 is upon us, and thankfully it is a journey that I do not have to take alone. Your landing party for today is Admiral Stephen Foley, Lieutenant Antiderivative Jill, and I am Chief Scotty R37. Without further ado, energize. Oh, I am adieu. That's yes. That's hello. Both and goodbye. I don't know.
Further adieu?
Possibly. Guys, I am nervous. I don't think I get nervous on our shows at all, but this is a highly contentious episode of Star Trek.
Is it?
The internet is abuzz.
I haven't seen any of the buzz yet because I went out for dinner, and so I missed a whole lot of action. I just saw the episode, and so these are just my thoughts.
Well, the build-up has to Season 3, Episode 1, and Season 3 in general has been contentious for Star Trek fans simply because of, Jill, what do you call it again? What is Bad Hideout, Secret Robot? What is it called again?
What do we call any Star Trek made after 2009? We call it the filth, coined by Raquel Briggs, who also coined 735 Club, which means that I recognize Star Trek as having run from 1966 to 2005.
Right. Have you heard of the qualification of the 235 Club, Steve?
No.
735.
735, my mistake.
Yeah, that means 735 iterations of real Star Trek, including the 10 movies.
Yes. Which graciously includes Nemesis.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just made it.
It squeaked in. Now I'm still. We don't have to talk about the Kelvin universe because that's sort of a separate entity unto itself, with nothing to do with what we're watching here. I do appreciate that it denotes itself as a separate universe, which is what this iteration should have done also. Well, and that's part of the Secret Hideout bad reboot. That's what has generated a lot of the contentious nature of Season 3, because Discovery I did not care for. Picard Season 1 and 2, I've watched all of it, but Steve, you and we tried to go through with hope and fingers crossed.
Right.
And we did not.
We got fooled. I got fooled. I won't speak for you, Scotty, but I got completely fooled because I really liked the first episode. In fact, I think I liked the first 2 episodes of Season 2, and then it just went completely off the rails.
Well, that's why it's important to remember that Star Trek Picard is still under Secret Hideout, run by Alex Kurtzman, who has repeatedly disrespected the franchise over the past 5 years.
But Kurtzman was away doing another show, and that's why Terry Matalas got the reins. And not only did he get the reins, he got free reign to do whatever he wanted to do.
The true amount of creative control that Terry has versus the production company, I believe, is actually unknowable, because even if Terry claims he had free reign, we don't really know that for sure. We have Kurtzman there.
I choose to take Terry
in the credits, and he had 2 assistants in the credits of this episode.
Yeah, so I choose to take Terry at his word,
and that is your choice.
Yeah.
And my preference is just to, while there are production scuffles in Discovery, there were apparently writers' room issues, the people changing the guard in terms of everything, the 25% rule. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes production stuff that people can talk about. When it comes to my interpretation of Star Trek, it's usually what is presented on screen. And that is how I prefer to look at it. I do understand the qualification of the filth. As I've mentioned before, sometimes I see something that I recognize as Star Trek within the filth, and that makes my stomach drop, because it means you could do this all the time, but you don't. And it frustrates me. And so I prefer to look and see what's on screen as opposed to what's going on behind the scenes in the production. And also, when it comes to internet personalities, internet reviewers, internet critics, I have to see it with my own 2 eyes to find out. And that is my preference. Your mileage may vary.
Yep. No, I agree with that.
But thankfully, this episode didn't make me immediately turn off. I don't think we're going to be doing a rating structure, just sort of at the end of the episode, we'll ask, are you going to watch the next episode? And I think that's how we'll be continuing forward. I'm going to create a poll for that. Are you going to continue watching past episode 1? And also, for the purposes of this conversation, I'm going to call it Star Trek Johnny Stew. Jill, you have been so amazing in terms of opening my eyes to Star Trek Picard seasons 1 and 2 as being Star Trek Patrick Stewart, which is what I preferred to call it.
Yes, that's right. That's because in seasons 1 and 2, Patrick Stewart basically inserted himself into the storylines, inserting his life story into Picard, where it didn't belong.
Sorry, I'm typing a poll.
Mm-hmm. And so I judge Star Trek based on whether it's good science fiction. Did we get any, other than having the ship and the ship's operations, we didn't get any science fiction messages or meanings in this episode, but we did get character stuff.
It was mostly character driven, although there was Starfleet protocols, which were continuing throughout the episode, and it was nice for modern Trek to see a bunch of people doing their jobs.
Yeah,
which is something that has been lacking in my opinion.
And I was surprised that they were introducing plot elements and actually addressing them in a sort of logical fashion, which is kind of unheard of for New Trek.
Yes. And as we go through it, we'll be able to take a look and see whether or not there has been any character assassination, any variances in established plot, what our opinions are. But before we get into the episode proper, I do want to say hello and thank everyone who is in the chat. PvP, Pleasant Valley Picker CA is here.
Hi, PvP.
Hey guys, there's a buzz building about your stream tonight. Well, I hope so. And oh yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and do all the things. Please.
And yes, please
ring the
bell. And also we
Smash
will
the like button.
All of the thing, and I think there are things in the description. If you want to support the channel, you can. Yep. Please, whatever you want, all the good stuff.
Edge of Time wants us to remember. Yes, definitely like and subscribe and super chat and stuff. But he wants us to remember that this is still the filth, and that is correct, because we do need to remember that this is not Picard. He was killed in season 1, so this is an android. And just like Roger Corby is not Roger Corby, he was never here, says Captain Kirk. This is, even if he's more recognizable as the captain, he's an android.
What are little Frenchmen made of?
Who, yeah, with English accents.
Yes. PvP says Jill versus Scotty. Round 1, fight.
And also, don't remember, there's Robot Cthulhu aliens who built a phone that they could just star 69 and destroy all the biological life at any point that they want.
Robot what?
The Robot Cthulhus could come back at any point and destroy everything. They can.
Here.
It's in the canon of this series.
Yes, it is. We do have Dr. Octopus attempting to invade the galaxy, according to the end of Star Trek Patrick Stewart season 1. Scogli is here. This is going to be a good one. The stream or the episode itself. There's absolutely no way it cannot be awesome. Thanks, man. And Lemon Pie is here. Greetings, Lemon Pie.
Hey, Lemon Pie.
Scogli gives a cheers to Steve.
Jolon True.
Nice. And Scogli, a cheers. And let's see. We got Petey York in the chat as well, saying this forgives nothing. It's the standard, the new expectation. With Kurtzman and Akiva out of the picture, it proves their models suck and Terry's works.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. I mean, obviously, there's 9 more episodes to go. This is just a table setting. So, I mean, look, we won't jump too far ahead of ourselves and get out too far over our skis here. But I agree with that.
I do agree that this is just the like the first few minutes of a movie. But I don't agree that Kurtzman and Akiva are out of the picture because Secret Hideout is still producing this. Whether or not they're there or not is not something that I believe, or I hope that they're out, but there's no way to know
I mean,
that when they still
out.
own the company.
They're not out. Nobody got fired. They're not, they're not switching production companies. But
Right. That's what I want.
I think what they're going to find out is that the response, not only in viewership but in critical acclaim and even viewers like us, fans like us, response to what happens when when somebody that is a fan like Terry Matalas writes and directs this new Trek, that it's I don't want to get too far into the politics of it, but leave
Did he write this
politics
episode?
aside. Just make really cool and good story. What do we always say, Scotty? Make good stories.
Mm-hmm.
Just make good stories and we'll watch them. And I think they're going to see that.
And this is an interesting sort of beast for all of us. For those who haven't seen all 10 episodes, we're watching it episodically like everyone else. And so we are going to see as we move along. And just to address one thing, PvP, unfortunately, one of the requirements for our Thursday night show, which crosses over into Quantum Leap as well, without viewing the episode, it's difficult to discuss it. And so if you do have an opportunity to check it out next week, you'll be more than welcome. But I have spoken to you recently, and I know that you are without the information. And so sadly, I must decline. But that being said, I will keep an eye on the chat as we go through. But look what I learned how to do, guys. I'm learning things. And I have to give Jill a lot of credit for sort of teaching me that this is an interesting and engaging way to present our show, and also Steve for putting up with my tardiness in taking this long to learn it. So I want to thank both of you guys for putting up and helping me figure out how to do any of this. You're both
I'm glad I
aces.
can inspire.
But absolutely. So we start off, ladies and gentlemen, episode 1 with the font from Wrath of Khan in the 25th century.
Yes, because Terry loves the movies.
Yes. And it shows very much in this, especially through the score. Oh, let me see.
Right. First Contact music. Which
I found a little strange in terms of using First Contact. I had this problem with the score to First Contact to begin with in terms of the opening credits until I realized that it's actually the theme to humans and Vulcans meeting for the first time. Yeah. And so that's the theme of First Contact. It is completely inapplicable here.
I'm wondering, well, what is Frontier Day like? Does that maybe have something to do with it? I have no idea yet.
Well, and isn't Frontier Day just a ripoff of First Contact Day?
That's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm wondering. But details.
So that's what it evolved into.
Details are still unknown about that day at this point. True.
All we know is that it's going to be probably overshadowed by the events of this television show. Here we are in the Knighton sector with the, I don't want to say USS, but it is called the Elias. And oh, yes.
That's Crusher's ship?
That is Crusher's ship. And we get to see right off the bat, Gates McFadden as Dr. Bev.
Looking great.
It is looking super fabu. I only can wish that that I will look as good when I am 60.
You wish you like it now.
And so she is being boarded by unknown assailants, and she grabs a phaser rifle that looks like it's from Star Trek First Contact, and starts preparing the ship to. Oh, by the way, this is going to have spoilers for the whole episode. So if you don't want them, please move along home. But sorry, Alan Moraine. So we do have a boarding party coming aboard the Elios, and Crusher is getting the warp core all primed and charged to get us the hell out of here. And here they are.
Right. While she's listening to the mixtape that Picard gave her.
I forgot. I don't want to set the world on fire by the ink spots.
And I say mixtape because no one says isolinear chip like they're supposed to.
This is, well, he does. He says that it's a selection of classics.
Yeah.
Picard does say later. And so I would say mixtape. I'm totally there with that. Matt G in the chat, thank you so much. I thought Jill swore never to cover this show
on my channel.
On her channel. And trust me, it took a little bit of negotiation.
Yeah.
But it is a pleasure to have her here.
Hello, Matt G. Always makes my day brighter to see you here.
And so, yeah, and also, PvP, correct? There is no real lighting going on.
Not in the entire episode. They turn on some night lights at some point.
They do.
Oh, and this is going to be a two-hander, Evans. There we are. And so we do have the attacking ships coming on to the Elios. And let me see. Oh, yeah. Oh,
actually, what's funny is that you get more lighting on some of the ships in the later scenes, and you get to see the ships in full light, and then you get inside the ship and it's dark again.
Yes. I think there's only one daylight shot, and I think I got it. But yeah, there is more cinematic lighting, which was interesting because I saw an interview with Jonathan Frakes recently, and he was talking about how it was encouraged to do more cinematographic, like make it more like a movie.
So like more cinematic in terms of drawing the color out of the screen?
That's, yes, make it drab is what they said. No. But we have the attacking ships just as, and Beverly is wounded, and she does send a message. What is it? Myron? What's the name of the encoder that she sends? A priority 1 subspace message to Admiral Jean-Luc Picard with a codec, Myron or Myrad or something. Myriad. Something
Myriad codex.
Steve is right.
And so she sends it and jumps to warp. And we are off to the races with a streamlined title sequence. We do not have the putting together of Little Boy Picard, Pinocchio. Yeah. It's just straight to the point.
But he is Pinocchio.
Which I appreciated, by the way. I thought this was great.
Well, and also, I remember on Red Letter Media, they were talking about how Picard was the Star Trek show about producers, and they listed off like 20 producers. It's nice not to be reminded of that fact at the beginning.
Right. You see that at the end, and then there are 20 assistants.
Yes. Well, and unfortunately, this is one of the few Star Trek shows that does not film in Toronto, so I can't get a PA job there. But yeah, here is our primary title card, part 1, The Next Generation.
Oh yeah, and also her son was there too.
Which I didn't realize. I knew the title was Next Generation, but the part 1 was a surprise. So I'm like, okay, cool, part 1.
Well, yeah, so that makes sense because these are not even though we're calling them episodes, it's not really episodes. These are pieces to a movie that you have to put together later.
Welcome to television in the 21st century. Unfortunately, this is being made to be binged, and I suppose I'm going to have to do a review on it after the fact as well, if it works out to my tastes. Yeah, but we open again. Oh, sorry, Steve.
I was just going to say, I'll probably do the same.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Ben from Cinema Gulp was saying he wants to do a binge drinking once it's all said and done.
Might do that. I might do that with Ben, too.
Yeah, he's probably the more intelligent of all of us to do it that way. But one thing we did miss in the previous scene was that all we know about the aliens is that they have this glowy orange ship, and there's no indication really of who they are, but they do kind of talk, but it's more like in growly, clicky noises. Yeah. So we know that from that the universal translator's down, though nobody mentions it.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. That's
absolutely. No, I didn't even think of the universal translator. But then again,
well, no, this episode isn't focusing on science fiction, so I'm still looking for that in upcoming episodes.
Well, yes. and I assume because Beverly is renegade at this point. That she's abandoned a lot of the Starfleet protocols and systems.
Yeah, but she's got her Alexa though.
She does.
Oh, and someone is trapped in there as well. She locks someone in a closet.
Trying to get out. Let me out.
Let me out. Let me out. Let me out.
Well, can I say who it is?
Sure.
It's her son, Jack.
Yeah.
And you found his name on Memory Alpha, yes?
Yes, it said there because that it had been released. His name was released in the somewhere.
Okay. But then after we go to the title cards, we get the classic Enterprise D portrait that hung in the ready room.
Yes, I have a
throughout.
dress with that ship on it.
Really?
It has pockets. It's really cool.
Nice.
This oil painting's dope. I thought it was awesome. I'm like, man, this is awesome. I'd like to have that hanging in the house.
It's always been one of my favorites. Yeah, I would love it. But we are reintroduced.
You mean the fat one?
Need the fat one. That's galaxy class to you, young lady. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
That was ridiculous.
We'll get there, Jill. Don't worry. We don't have to dwell. So we are reintroduced to Laris back on Chateau Picard and admiring the painting, saying,
which I like, by the way, Scotty, if I can interrupt.
Yeah.
One of the standout things from the crappy first two seasons, I thought was their relationship, and her in particular. So I was glad to see her back.
Well, I didn't even know they were together because I only saw the first 3 episodes of the last season, and so he rejected her. So that I thought that was the end of that, but apparently now they're gonna go live together on some planet. Mm-hmm. Okay, but apparently she's not in the rest of the season, so we don't need to worry about her.
Yeah.
All we have to do is worry about how she's ignoring Picard's wishes to give this painting to Geordi, which actually makes sense as a gift from a captain to his engineer.
Well, and it does say that he is part of the Fleet Museum. He is the head of the Fleet Museum.
Yes.
Geordi is.
Yes, and so it makes sense for Picard to give it to him because he can still visit it anytime he wants.
Yeah. Well, yes, but it's his, and Laris sort of puts the kibosh on giving it away. And Picard says that it wasn't his first ship, but it was his favorite. I suppose time has given a little bit more affection to the D as opposed
to Stargazer.
Instead of the Stargazer, because in Relics he says, you know what, the Enterprise D may be superior to the Stargazer, but the Stargazer is still my first ship, my first love. So a little bit of change there, but I guess everybody changes their perspectives as they get older. And so here we have,
it's just the android Picard prefers the Enterprise D.
Yes, and then we have a few things. Did I get it? Yeah. So that's later with the Kurlan Nice Coast. But we do have here we have the booby trap ship from Message in a Bottle.
Yeah.
No, is it Message in a Bottle? No, from Booby Trap. And so that is representative of an old Next Generation. We have one of the gold ships. You broke your little ships.
Yep, broke your little ships.
Something else over here.
First contact, yeah.
Well,
there were member bears all over the place.
There were.
Picard's Chateau.
I just wanted to point them out because if I was making slides, I wanted to be able to have a little pointer that says this is Laris. Right. But then later on, Laris and
piece. Oh, I'm sorry. That piece is one of my favorite pieces from the show. Props from the episode The Chase.
Yes,
which is awesome.
It is awesome to have it come back. It's also one of those things that I am very happy that he recovered it from the crash of the Enterprise D at the end of Generations, where he sort of discarded it willy-nilly.
Right.
He obviously came back for it, which is nice. There is something wrong with this, though. Picard is wearing glasses.
Yeah.
First things first, he's an android.
Yeah.
Second thing, wouldn't you take retinox for that? The only reason Kirk used glasses is because he was allergic to retinox.
Yeah.
Must be a thing with captains to be allergic to.
It must be that, or androids. That's anyway. So
Androids
this is
can't take it because
I
it messes
chalked it
their-
up to the same reason why Data put a silver streak in his hair.
well, yes, but that was an aesthetic choice on his part. Admiral,
Exactly. That's what I'm chalking this up to, an aesthetic choice.
okay. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to forgive it that. I think my idea is that it's an acting choice to show the importance of something.
I think it probably is too.
Like,
to be honest,
what's
right,
that?
because he also doesn't really need to be doing a handwritten letter either.
Yeah,
I'd chalk that up to a character choice, but
right, I know he likes paper books and everything.
Admiral Teague is here.
Hey!
Admiral Teague.
Hello, Admiral Teague.
And
It makes sense we're not talking too much about the dialogue in these scenes because it's not very good.
yeah. In terms, I enjoyed the character interactions between.
The writing in this episode wasn't bad.
Well, I'm talking about this particular scene because I don't think it was very good when Picard was talking about not needing a legacy, which didn't really make any sense because the real Picard anyway has a legacy, whether he wants one or not. And so it just didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like I'm seeing in the chat, bad writing. It's not bad writing. I guess for laymen that don't understand, it could seem.
No. It was extremely simple. The dialogue was extraordinarily simple. So it was nothing to not get.
Yeah, I disagree.
It was really very repetitive.
And I enjoyed the character interaction between Laris and Picard. I think that it's reserved, and for Picard to say that he doesn't want a legacy, he may have one. He obviously does, as Captain Shaw will refer to later on.
But I think that's part of Kurtzman Trek's affinity for not having respect for the past and deriding it a bit, and that's still in here a little bit.
I think it speaks to Picard's modesty or his lack of self-importance in the situation.
Absolutely.
But if you take it as poor writing, again, most of this is going to be your mileage may vary.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it can't get better, but
right. Oh, for sure. And if it's your opinion that it's bad writing and it didn't speak to you, then things don't have to be made for everyone. And so far,
and compare, I guess I would say compared to what? I mean, there's some super bad writing in the original series. There's some bad writing in the first couple seasons of Next Generation.
Yeah, but the thing about that is you can have a bad episode or two in episodic Star Trek and it doesn't hurt the really awesome episodes. Whereas if you get just one bad episode in this season, it can derail the whole thing because it's all one story.
But it hasn't yet. I mean,
I didn't say it hadn't. I haven't said that it has yet, but there's a difficulty there.
Well, and one of the things about this is in terms of looking at it within the confines of everything since 2009, or more accurately televised Star Trek from 2017 onward, I would say that this is probably in my top 3 episodes of the filth. Now that is valedictorian in summer school, but it's still
right. But it's still right.
I would. It didn't. This doesn't slap me in the face and say no.
Yeah. So even though I don't like some of the dialogue, I do say that it does understand some story structure.
See, and that's something that Matt G says that bad writing doesn't compare to New Trek bad.
Right.
Well, and in terms of 735 to New Bad, the only thing I would throw under the bus is Code of Honor, and let's be fair, it deserves to be. Alternative Factor is them. Anyway, and PvP, I don't think Steve was attacking you personally.
Nope.
And I apologize if you took it that way, but I don't think that was the intention. Steve's usually gracious. He has opinions, and sometimes they're abrasive. And that's all. So anyway, I don't want to interrupt.
And I'm a writer, so I'm a writer. So
No, but I can see
bad writing. Like, dude, I get it. I get that you think that, but that doesn't mean it's true. It means that's your opinion. And I think a lot of people think because they have an opinion, everybody else should have that opinion as well.
Well, of course not. That's not the case. I think just the way that you word it, and where you make it seem as if someone doesn't have the intellectual capacity to possibly understand the brilliance of what we've just seen,
And
is probably the only part that he didn't like. But that's all right.
And I knew it was going to be a hot button topic because there are people falling on both sides of the fence on this one. And so,
well, I mean, look, people are predisposed to hate this. So they're going in with a lens. And I get it. You know, the first 2 seasons and even all of Discovery have given them no, reason to feel otherwise.
Well, I believe people are capable of objectivity.
I hope so. I think you're right, but I don't think that's all people, and it's not most people online, unfortunately, in this sphere, anyways.
Well, and Lemon says, let's lighten it up with a joke. Pleasant Valley Picker, what is Jill's favorite dessert? Gelato.
Ha.
Thank you. And absolutely, PvP,
I do like gelato.
Do you?
Yeah, it's Italian ice cream without milk.
And we do. It is. Oh, gelato. Yeah, no, it's vegan. So we do have a chirping going on from off screen where Picard has a little bit of banter back and forth with the computer saying, what is that noise? Where is it coming from? And the computer says, I don't know. And Picard says, thanks for the help.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. That really transmits it to an old badge.
And so there is a pedantic computer description of the of what communicator is chirping and what could possibly be broadcasting, and it's a priority 1 subspace message encoded with a codec. What codec? A codec is yes, I know what a codec is. And so I did enjoy that back and forth in terms of actually Picard showing a little bit of authority, which he's been a shrinking violet, an elderly old man as opposed to a young old man.
Right. In the first 2 seasons, he couldn't figure anything out without somebody else doing it for him. So true.
Hello, I'm Admiral John. Anyway, so we get Picard seeing Beverly's transmission, giving coordinates to her location, and also, is it Hellbird?
Yes, that's the next mystery.
Which is the next mystery, which is Hellbird.
But Riker explains it.
Yes, he does. And so this is she needs help, and please do not ask for any help from Starfleet. Don't trust anyone. Right. So Picard basically tells Laris that, and I'm assuming Laris gets to see the transmission as well.
Yeah, I don't like that Beverly says not to trust someone, not even Starfleet. I just hate that attitude. The complete dismissal of chain of command, even before the season begins, that tells us that Starfleet's going to be the issue this season. Starfleet is bad, and so it's still the non-optimistic future that we're living in here in this episode.
And by so far, 10%. We have 10% of a story so far. I don't know what her rationale is, what her reasons are, but she must have them.
Yeah, so but the Kurtzman Trek universe is just full of so many secret agents that all of Starfleet is just basically Section 31 now.
Well, and that is something that if we do address Section 31, I'm not going to be very pleased with it. Just because I don't like Section 31.
I don't either.
Especially not being introduced so early.
But that's the Starfleet we have now. And so I'm just trying to accept that.
Yeah, and that is where we are in terms of the story. And so as Laris and Picard discuss the fact that Picard has to go and attempt to rescue Beverly, Laris says, you have to go. Let's go. I'll go do my diplomatic mission on wherever it is. And we'll see you in a bit. Take your time. And he's trying to be reassuring, saying that I'll be back in a couple of days, essentially. And she says probably longer. So we end up at 10 forward.
Eagle Moss.
And there's some product placement if anybody wants an Eagle Moss Enterprise D. There it is. And that is not Guinan, but we are at 10 forward, and everyone's favorite first officer, Commander William.
But we don't see Guinan ever in this season.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I'm kind of okay with that myself, but
me too.
It doesn't affect anything, but this just means that we're in Los Angeles, and Riker is asking what exactly is going on with having so many of the Enterprise D, and it's like, oh, the fat ones? Nobody wants those.
Right, and that's another stab at the past. The past sucks, and look at the future. It's the same old kind of message there.
I don't necessarily agree.
And that's what happens when Riker and Picard discuss. Well, they're also derisive to the past when they discuss Frontier Day.
Again, I don't think that they're taking stabs at it. I'm not interpreting it that way.
Who wants to listen to old farts talk about the final frontier is what is paraphrasing what
going
Riker
boldly
says.
Yes.
Going boldly.
Which is, but I think again that speaks to what even if you look at the favorability towards the movies, even as Admiral Kirk is going aboard the Enterprise, I hate inspections, and gallivanting around the cosmos is a game for the young. Like, there are things like that that are derision towards, like, self-effacing references.
Irreverent, yeah.
As opposed to
right, and that's why it's important to remember we're watching a Star Trek movie, not the TV show. So if you're wanting the TV show, you're not going to get it. This is the movies.
Well, and it's an updating. It is, again, it's something that's sort of this time as opposed to the early 90s. And so there is going to be an acknowledgement of age and who want it. And when I look back on my youth, I do think of myself now as being an old fart. I'm aware that there are cars that I can't drive because they're too fast, chicks that I can't get because they're too young, music that I won't enjoy because I'm not with it.
I actually appreciate the fact that they are kind of self-deprecating in that way and kind of understand who they are and at what time they are.
Yes. Well, and in response to just so that this feels a little balanced, and Matt G being our tipper, Matt G says Doomcock feels like this. You went to your favorite restaurant for years and then it changes ownership. Despite this, you decide to have your wedding reception there, and they screw it up so much it ruins your wedding
for 5 years.
Then your friend says,
years.
Hey, I know they ruined your wedding, but they have an awesome pot roast. No one in this situation would go back to that restaurant. That's how Doomcock sees this. And that's fair for his interpretation. The only thing that I can say in reference to that is if you decide not to go back to that restaurant anymore, that's fine. But after 5 years of knowing that that restaurant has destroyed your wedding, I wouldn't keep posting Yelp reviews.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
That it's just a matter of, if you don't like it, don't frequent it.
Then
and on a personal note, that is exactly what I've done with Star Wars.
Right.
I don't talk about it because I don't like it.
Yeah.
Anymore. I have my golden era, and moving forward, I just don't give it any attention because there's no reason for me to do so. So I would like to point out,
and for a lot of people, that's going to be Star Trek too, Scotty. For a lot of people, they were burned. They felt burned by Discovery. They felt burned by the first two. Obviously, Doomcock felt burned by the first two seasons. So it's understandable that you'd be very trepidatious about this new season, right?
Yeah.
And trepidatious is absolutely the right way.
I mean, you'd be like, dude, this is just, it's going to be more garbage. We've heard otherwise, and
that's right. Yeah, people I like have liked it.
Hopefully it works out the way the way that some of our friends who have seen it the season multiple times have pointed out. Hopefully, it's as good as they say. This I like this episode right here. I don't think is the best episode of television in the world. I don't think it. I think this is more of a table setting. This episode, like episode 1 of a new season should be, is more of a table setter. So I don't think we judge an entire season off of the very first episode, but I think this is a good start.
Well, and I'm going to save mine till the end,
Sure.
just because I think that it's going to be weird, because it sounds like I'm just volleying things back and saying, no, it's not that bad. No, it's not that bad. Wait till the end, and then you'll hear what I think. I do want to agree with PvP here, and I know he's referencing the image from Chateau Picard. PvP says, I dislike the lighting. Are there no light bulbs? I'd like to point out that the bar has the same lighting as most of the starships, and that's weird. And Admiral Teague says, we have 10% of a story, and we have no reason to believe the writers know where this is going either. And Teague, I know your thoughts on it, sir. And I would say the first chapter of every book that you've ever read probably gets all the attention, and the rest of it is left to your imagination.
Actually, I was ready to deride this episode for storytelling, but they actually are tying things in as it goes along, and I can't get it for that, just the cheesy dialogue. But Frontier Day does seem like it's going to be something that's going to be important.
And it's good to see Captain Infinity here.
Hey, Captain Infinity.
Captain Raid. Oh, and heavens, let me just star this. Oh, Canadian Spider-Man is here. Hey, great to see you.
Hey, Canadian Spider-Man.
Scotty R37, Antiderivative Jill, and fellow Steve.
Canadian.
I will. And let me see. Here we go. So we have, let's see.
But everything in this episode is just the beginning of things, so there's not much to care about just yet.
Not yet. Like I said, most of the first, even sometimes the first 2 or 3. I'm surprised they didn't drop the first 2 episodes. I know it's only 10 episodes, but a lot of shows are doing that now, like dropping 2 or 3 episodes. I kind of wish they would have done that, just because usually these are the table setting episodes, and to kind of get them out of the way, But
right, exactly. If they don't want to be judged by just one episode, release more.
Yeah.
Good point. So here is where Picard and Riker have met in 10 Forward, the Earthbound bar in Los Angeles. And Picard is laying out what's going on in terms of the communique from Bev, in terms of the coordinates, where apparently there is nothing going on. And yeah. Also, I forgot to mention, Picard does say to Riker, thank you for sacrificing some of your family time, and Riker says something odd that I'm assuming is going to come up. I'm only guessing. Is that he says Deanna and Kestra are probably just appreciative to have their time away from me.
Yeah, and left it out there, like hanging out there, right?
Oh, it's
so
Riker. Sorry, Joe.
No, that's fine. It's some kind of hint at some kind of family trouble, or but we don't learn anything about it in this episode. So do we care yet? Not yet.
No, but I did think it was worth mentioning. And then also,
yeah, it does.
And then also, Riker is questioning, saying, "Why did Beverly cut us all off?" And he's very specific about the three people: me, Deanna, Geordi. And it's like, that's a good question. Why would you cut out Geordi of all people? Just so because.
Another mystery box. Obviously, you're going to get mystery boxes, but that's what you get. You're going to. I understand that this production company is famous for that, and I hate them for it. But
me too.
In the first couple episodes, you're going to get these kind of mystery boxes. But hopefully, in this season, they'll actually pay off.
That's what I'm hoping for.
So this was. I love this part. And you're probably going to talk about it, Scotty, so I won't interrupt. But
no, please, you.
Before we get out of this scene and into the next scene, I do like the fact that Riker knows the codex to add the right?
To add the 3,
cipher.
because it's a computer virus.
Right. But and it happened while Picard was Locutus, so Picard didn't know, which is interesting that Beverly sent this codex to Picard, right? And Picard wouldn't know how to actually
kind of like a way to force him to get help from somebody else,
right? To get help, yeah.
Well, and it when I first heard the beginning of the episode, and they're replaying a captain's log from Best of Both Worlds Part 1, I was like, oh, come on, do we have to do that again? And I'm glad that it actually ties into why she's paying attention to that specific mission, because it does inform the adding 3 to everything.
Absolutely. Which was
decoding.
Yes, it was more than just seeing the Elcars again.
Mm-hmm. Right. They didn't just pick a captain's log willy-nilly, right?
Right.
Also, in that Jonathan Frakes interview you mentioned earlier, Jonathan Frakes says, somebody asks a question, where do I start? If I've never seen Next Generation, and he said, start at Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and 2.
Which is kind of self-serving, because it is probably the best Riker episode too.
Right, it is. So okay, good. That's not where I would start, but that's where Jonathan starts. Jonathan, like he's my buddy.
Johnny.
Yeah.
2 takes breaks. And then, sorry, Joe.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Where are you?
Oh, I was going to say, just for context, I feel like I'm doing a court deposition. For context, we are kind of. We're witnessing.
We're cute.
The specific message from Beverly is, Admiral Picard, I'm recording this transmission with coordinates. Listen to me very carefully. Hellbird, repeat, Hellbird, and Jean-Luc, no Starfleet. Trust no one, is what the good Dr. Crusher says. I do like the pad, and we are going to the right in the system.
Yeah, right. So Riker figures out that Beverly is going to that Beverly is at the Righton system, but they keep mentioning that it's outside of Federation space, like that matters. And it wasn't until Kurtzman Trek that anyone ever even cared about being outside of Federation space, because it's Starfleet's job to explore outside of Federation space, unless it's a diplomatic border like the neutral zone or other aggressive areas.
Well, yeah. So there was always that, right? And at this point, I guess the Romulan Empire's gone, and so I don't know about the borders anymore. So it may actually be way the hell out there somewhere.
Well, here is something that has been plaguing me on the buildup: is when it comes to 25th century Star Trek, we are dealing with a post-Borg incursion, post-Maquis rebellion, post-Dominion War.
Yeah, the Maquis are gone.
Well, yeah. Oh, no, they're dead. Yeah. But including Cal Hudson, which was very heartbreaking for me. But we are talking about a more militarized and more harsh Starfleet and Federation. And that is something that I never even really considered until recently in the way that the Federation deals with things, because until Picard seasons 1, 2, and 3, we have had no exposure to 25th century galactic politics.
Correct.
We don't know what's going on with the Federation. We haven't seen Klingons in the 25th century.
Right.
So when it comes to going outside of the safe zone of Federation space, that could be akin to building a wall, maintaining your borders.
That's the message from Kurtzman Trek that I don't appreciate. It's kind of Kurtzman's desperate attempt to keep that xenophobic message implanted in Starfleet. And
it seems there's also kind of a school of thought that most of this new Trek, Starfleet somehow always the problem, right?
Right.
This decentralized government, or whatever you want to call it, is the problem, and that seems to be a recurring theme. But like you said, Scotty, it obviously it is here, at least in this first episode, but we don't really know what the structure of the political, scene is in this time period yet. We haven't been privy to it yet. So hopefully we get a lot of that, or at least some of explanation of why they're so distrusting of Starfleet as a whole. And I think you touched on it, Scotty. I think you touched on, because of the more rigid, kind of more militaristic
the mindset
of Starfleet post Dominion War, post.
And it is something that has been, and Jill, you're absolutely correct. It's something that has been prevalent throughout 2009 forward New Trek filth, if you will, is that Star Trek Into Darkness, although we prefer not to say that anything about it, that is a response to the temporal incursion by the Narada in Star Trek 09. And that's what drives the militaristic endeavors of Admiral Marcus. And so it is ridiculous, like in terms of who is involved. I don't want to talk about Admiral RoboCop too much, but I'm just saying this is something that comes up over and over again throughout, which is a reflection, if you will, sometimes of what's been going on in modern geopolitical situations. And Star Trek has kind of done that since forever, if you will.
If it were done in a more concise way that was better explained, it.
New writers forgot how to use allegory.
Took the words right out of my mouth, man.
Correct. Agreed.
And I just want to, PvP says, I don't like ageism in general. When they portray older folks as decrepit, stupid, and helpless, it totally pisses me off.
Yeah, that was definitely Picard seasons 1 and 2, and he's a little less helpless now.
Which is weird because Picard had so much influence on those first 2 seasons. I mean, Patrick Stewart had so much influence on. They were telling his story the way he wanted it, or he wasn't going to do it, right? So,
right.
Yes, and
it's weird that they played that up so much.
It's clear at least that they took the pen away from him this time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Canadian Spider-Man also says, I believe it's bigger than that. The ruining of Star Trek is part of an ongoing war on our very society and common culture, and since it's not stopping, Doomcock will not stop. And hey, again, if it's a matter, and Jill is very correct in saying that it is an attack on the classic storytelling, the science fiction, and more focused on that flash, boom, bang of, say, a Star Wars. It's gone back to when JJ was making Star Trek and said, I was always more of a Star Wars guy. And Jon Stewart on The Daily Show said, I saw your lips moving, but I stopped listening after you said you didn't like Star Trek. It's been a punchline since the press tour of Star Trek 09. And disliking it is fine. But again, if you're going to coincide that it's a bad restaurant that no one I know will go back to, and continuing to post reviews of that restaurant, that's where I find the dichotomy a little hard to swallow.
But I think to that point, and to Doomcock's overarching point, is that old Trek, I'll just split it into 2. Old Trek and then all the new Trek, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Old Trek, it's like our school system used to be. So old Trek taught you how to think. New Trek tells you what to think. And that's 2 different, completely separate ways of doing things, right?
Yes, so, and the best thing I can see from this episode is that it didn't do any of that.
It didn't do any of that, right? And I have a feeling, and people have told me, believe it or not, doesn't matter. We'll see as we progress through the episodes, that we're not going to get. We may get a little tiny bit of that up, but I think most of that's going to be left out. It's not going to tell you what to think. It's going to more encourage you to think.
Yeah, present your story, present your arguments, and allow the viewer to piece it together.
The classic Trek or old Trek, or however you want to, bifurcate those 2, was so good. Because they were telling stories of their time, but they were deep rooted in allegory and telling universal truths. Right? You don't get that at least we haven't gotten that in the new shows yet.
Right, exactly. Like
banging you over the head with telling you what to think.
Absolutely. And Matt G goes to say, that's a good point. I guess Doomcock feels he's being personally attacked, so he can't just go away from Trek. I didn't feel personally attacked by Star Wars. I just felt that Star Wars was failing me to the point that I didn't want to watch that particular car crash in slow motion anymore. And I don't, sometimes with friends, I'll make fun of Grogu, but I don't generally go out of my way to refute any other people's affection for it. And while Doomcock does have his opinion, he has been spicy in terms of people who do pursue watching the new Trek, and as is his right. I find that to be a little outside of Federation space, if you will.
Yeah, it's a little outside, but I don't think I'm not with anybody who says Doomcock should walk away or just stop talking about it. Absolutely not. I mean, if, whether you love it or hate it, you should absolutely talk about it.
Oh yeah, and I'm not taking away from anyone's opinion one way or another. No. If you love it and you want to scream to high heaven, if you hate it and you want to scream to high heaven, both are available to you.
Yeah. Oh, and the internet loves both. Actually, they love the hate more, but
yeah, I think the problem is that even if this turns out to be a good science fiction story in general, the fear is that if it gets too much support and Kurtzman gets renewed for more years, then we're still not going to get real Star Trek until Secret Hideout, until production companies change, basically.
And
so that's a real fear.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah. That's absolutely fair. And that is, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see. You know what I mean? The problem is CBS and Paramount love this crew for some reason, so
because they can make a lot of stuff. Like they're not just making Star Trek, they're making other stuff, so they can produce. They just somebody else needs to write.
Well, and the difference between executives and creatives,
and I think that's what we saw in this episode, and what we're seeing. We're going through it now, but I think that's what we're seeing in this episode. This writing felt completely different from any of the new Trek that I've seen so far.
Yes.
Yes.
And mainly for the fact that they left out all the woke nonsense. Right?
They did leave it out.
You didn't when we finally get, and we'll get to this part, but when you finally get onto the starship, onto the Titan, there's not, they're actually doing their jobs. They're not running around crying each other, puking their feelings out all over each other and trying to make you think a certain thing.
Well, at the very least, not on the bridge.
Right, at least not on the bridge.
Oh my, we are having quite a chat. Thank you so much to the chat. But PvP says, my body is aged, but my mind is not. Life experience can make you grow if you have a reasonable intelligence. Absolutely. But I also think that acknowledging your own aging is something that does happen. And saying that you've slowed down, and they do address it at the end. I don't think it's a matter of being, I think it's more self-deprecation than it is ageism.
And it is. And I think especially in the beginning, in the bar, and then we'll see it again when Riker and Picard are on the Titan. It's more banter between two old friends than trying to make any kind of statement. I never got any kind of, I didn't feel like they were trying to make a statement that, oh, old people can't do anything, or they're decrepit old fuddy duddies.
No one is 2 days away from retirement saying that they're too old for this shit.
Right.
And so
little badinage.
Admiral Teague says, when has new Trek table setting ever worked out? This is how this show canon wipes every season. What are the stakes? We don't know yet. It's only the first. We don't know.
And
we do know that there's.
I'm not going to compare something that I haven't seen yet to something that I have seen. It's just not a fair comparison yet.
Right. What is it? You made that the GIF for me, or the little video, and I still need to get that again. Is that I haven't seen it, but I hate it.
Well, come on, I want that. Admiral Teague, this is Kurtzman Trek. The stakes are going to be higher than they need to be. Yeah, the whole universe, the whole galaxy. Right. It's just the first episode, and you get a weapon that can kill a planet.
Right. Just as long as there's no space Jesus in this episode, in this season, I think it'll be a step up.
We're going to get there in a second because I thought that we were going to get something terrible like that in a second. PvP says, hello to Canadian Spider-Man. I am very troubled how this is dividing our community. And it doesn't have to. PvP, everybody. Teague, everybody. It doesn't have to, as long as we can get together and have conversations about it, what you liked, what you didn't like. And if ultimately you want to throw it away, you can. I've done it to Discovery. I've done it to Strange New Worlds. I've done it to every Star Wars that doesn't start with episodes 1 to 6. Sorry, Captain. I know we're not supposed to call A New Hope A New Hope. It's just Star Wars. But that, like, I don't think it has to divide anybody as long as we're willing to get together and talk about it. And if you don't like it, so be it. And if you do like it, you do. I don't like Bem. Come at me.
He's a colony creature.
I know. You love your colony creatures.
I do love actual colony creatures. They're kind of cool. They stick together in the ocean and they form, they each one acts like its own organ and they get together and become one organism.
Yes. And
it's
it happens
fun.
it is fun. It is funny, but that's
even
the
though,
real life science.
So that, yeah, the real life science in Star Trek, even in a bad episode of real Star Trek, you've got something interesting to think about. Well, real science fiction.
Speaking of something that I think we can all agree upon in a bad Star Trek, Metalis Prime.
Yes.
Really?
Come on.
Okay.
Dude, if you had the opportunity, you would put your name in canon too, dude. I laughed. I thought that was brilliant. I loved it.
I thought it was tacky.
I did too. A little bit. At the very least, I would call like the USS last name. Like that's what I would do. I wouldn't call an entire planet, and especially considering that it's this planet. You want your Metalis Prime is basically Blade Runner. We've seen Free Cloud. Right. We're doing this. Okay. All right.
Christian Harloff got his. I think he got Harloff Minor in a Star Wars book.
Oh no way! That's and don't forget, Manny Boffins is Robert Meyer Burnett in that comic book adaptation of the 2 Stormtroopers.
Well, and every shuttlecraft in Next Generation was a producer's name. So. Almost every the Lauriston, almost all the shuttlecraft did.
Okay.
There was a bunch. So people have been putting their names into Star Trek stuff for a long time.
Yes, they have. I wanted to show this just because I really like that they have. Is this Ferengi text over here? Oh wait, over here, and then we have. It looks like Vulcan text here. I liked this, but we are getting the Blade Runner noodle bar, and we have an Orion. And everyone's favorite Star Trek Picard character, Raffi Musiker.
Yeah, she's back and she's on drugs again. Asking for money.
The junkie.
She's back and she's on drugs again. That should be the character poster. That should be what it says.
That's Raffi.
Raffi's back and she's high as a kite. Yeah. And so she is trying to get information. Well, first things first, she's trying to get drugs. Actually, is she? She's trying to get drugs from this Orion, but then she's also trying to get a little bit of information as to what is going on with a theft of a weapon from a Daystrom, I want to say station, a Daystrom station.
Yeah, from the Daystrom Institute. It's a quantum tunneling technology that was being experimented on, and she's trying to track how it's been stolen. So is she really, she is...
is she really getting drugs, or
is
she
really
getting
drugs?
information?
Is she really getting? I think she is on drugs.
I think she got both.
I think she got both. She got information and she's on drugs. And Jean really didn't want, Starfleet officers to be drug abusers, because we're supposed to be in the future where that kind of thing has been taken care of both pharmaceutically and psychologically. But that is Raffi's character for the past 2 years, so that's why they're sticking with it.
Well, and it's something that I heard in regards to season 3 from the people who have actually seen all 10. They allow a little bit of forgiveness to seasons 1 and 2 because they are inherited characters or inherited character flaws, such as Android Picard and Raffi with her penchant to vaping the weeds.
Right.
But it is an inherited character trait, and I'm glad that they didn't eject her totally, just so that there is some continuity, that this doesn't feel like Star Trek Picard the miniseries. Don't worry about the first 2 seasons, because again, addressing the fans of the first 2 seasons is something that you got to do in season 3 if there are 2 previous seasons.
It's a non-reboot.
Yeah, to quote the philosopher Alanis Morissette, it's a jagged little pill.
Yeah, a soft reboot.
Soft reboot sounds about right.
Yeah,
a soft reboot for the purposes of a reunion.
And but we get our next mystery.
Yes. What? Well, we get a communication with Raffi calling herself a commander in Starfleet and saying that she's requesting a debriefing.
Well, wait. The next mystery I'm talking about is the red lady that the Orion tells Raffi about.
Yep, the red lady.
The red lady, who I thought, and when we were watching it, I said out loud, "Oh no, it's going to be Michael Burnham or Mrs. Mama Burnham. She's coming back. It's the red lady." But then
with her Iron Man suit.
Exactly, and I was just like, "Please no, please no, please no."
And I thought back to the trailers and it was going to be like, you know, the villain of the season, you know, the big bad of the season. That lady, I was thinking that was the red lady, but we find out later that nope.
And again, we're getting setups and payoffs in the first episode, as opposed to the tedious mystery boxes that we've been shown in Discovery specifically. In that, here is one piece of here's one side of the mystery box, and we're not going to address this side of the mystery box ever again. We're getting them set up and paid off within the episode, as we will find out. But back to Earth. Meanwhile, at Earth,
yes.
I love the new space dock.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Me too.
I like how we have old space dock and what we build on new space dock. So I like that it is an expansion of the original space dock. So
I did too. I thought that was cool. I'm like, all right, cool. That's again, you know, bringing some more familiarity into the.
This might be the only scene that if I just saw this clip, I think, hey, this is a real Star Trek thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and do you chalk that up to member berries? And
yes.
So you're just saying that this is a reference for fan service?
Yeah.
I think it's a nice representation of the evolution of Starfleet at Earth throughout the last, since.
But fan service in a good way. I mean, not in a that's fucking fan service. No. In a very proper way.
Right. You might be mistaken that you're watching Star Trek watching this, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing.
Right.
No, don't worry, Jill. I do have the moment that you said, "Don't worry, boy. We're not watching Star Trek." But yeah. Now this is the shuttle pod that is similar, if not a straight up cover song of Scotty and Kirk going to the Enterprise refit in motion picture. We have Picard and Riker headed to space dock to perform a ruse to get a ship and head over to the Righton sector.
Yes, and in that sense, I think it's also a bit of Star Trek 3 because they're not necessarily stealing the ship, but they're redirecting it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and even some of Star Trek 2 with the crew going and checking it out, even though that was repurposing of the motion picture. But yeah, my problem with this is I don't think that Picard is this kind of guy.
Oh, I do now. I think he is now.
You think he is now?
Yeah, I do.
This character choice on Patrick Stewart's Riker is firing on all thrusters in this scene, and I think Picard is being a little too Patrick Stewart-y for my taste. You can almost tell that he doesn't like consoles.
I'll tell you what though.
There you go.
The banter between them was written really, really well, in my opinion. In fact, I don't think it's ever happened with New Trek that I actually laughed out loud, I think 3 or 4 times during this episode.
Well, I think it's because they're actually doing something that New Trek never does, which is to spell out the rules. That the crazy thing that they're about to do, it should have dire consequences. They say here they could be court-martialed for it. And New Trek usually doesn't concern itself with things like that.
Yeah.
That's true. And
They
so
were just fun. They were just written some really like funny situations, and the banter I thought was well executed.
well, and what you said before in terms of seeing this as being a Star Trek episode that feels more like Star Trek than anything we've seen since 2000, since old Trek. This feels like old Trek. I think that is because the charisma, the knowledge, our affinity towards these characters and seeing them together, even seeing Riker and Picard together, is enough for me to be happy just to see the band somewhat back together.
But I'll tell you what, Scotty, in the first season, when Picard and Riker and Troy are together, it didn't feel like this. It felt awkward to me. It didn't feel like the band was back together.
Of course not. They were just burning pizza.
Yeah,
right. So this one did. This episode did.
I did have a little bit of affinity towards Nepenthe, which is the pizza episode, as I've been told. Yes,
that's a cool episode. I didn't feel that what you were talking about. I didn't feel that.
Sure.
I felt it in this episode, though, for sure.
Okay. And so anyway, Riker saying this is just a routine surprise inspection, which routine and surprise, I suppose. So just, give me one of those stern looks that you're famous for. And so Picard does this and Riker says, there it is.
There it is.
And that made me laugh. That did. And Riker, again, I am a Riker fan. And so this episode is doing all the right things. And he does say, hello, beautiful, at which point we get to see... Come on, mice. There we are.
Dun, dun.
We get the Neo Constitution class Titan. The USS Titan A, which I wholeheartedly disagree with. You don't call it the A if it's a refit. You call it the A if you're renaming a new ship. That's why you call it the A. But New Trek doesn't seem to understand it. They think that anytime you have a refit, you have to add a letter onto it. And that's not how that shit works. Anyway, here we have the boatswain, and as made famous in Rathacon and Undiscovered Country, people think that this is somewhat fan servicey in a bad way. I think it's just something that has been around since the days of wooden ships. And so it is reverent to the naval tradition of Starfleet, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And there she is, Miss America. We have Commander Annika Hansen, no longer the artist formerly known as 7 of 9. And she actually corrects Riker and Picard to address her as Commander Hansen, because Captain Shaw
wants it that way.
Would prefer that. Now, you mentioned earlier about disregarding the woke shit. I thought that this was a way for us to instantly dislike Captain Shaw in terms of preferring Seven's dead name.
Oh, I didn't see it that way. But
I don't know if I was reaching, but I was like, oh, if he insists on what she gets to call herself, then that's why we know that this guy's a dick.
Oh, yeah. I took it that he fucking just didn't like the Borg, and I think that pays off later. We'll get to that.
And it could be that, but I liked when you said you made a bit of a comparison to Jellicoe. I don't really see him as that, but it could be like how Jellicoe wanted Troy to wear her uniform.
Yep. That's the way I took it too, that he's a captain that's, by the numbers, period.
And why not? Because, you've got a first officer who, I guess she's been acquitted of all her murderous rampages from the past 2 seasons.
There was only one that I can remember, but also the temporal investigators would probably not like the car chase in the middle of Los Angeles in 2020, whatever.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that we have to, And again, if you're not looking forward to this at all and you don't want to watch it because of the atrocities that occurred in season 1 and 2, I can't argue with you. I have no legs. So I get it. And chat, don't worry. As soon as we see Captain Shaw, I'm going to take a break and talk to you guys for a bit. But we do have Picard, Riker, and I just like seeing these three on screen together.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it joys me. It overjoys me. But this is the inspection, or at least a pretend inspection. And they walk through the corridors, and basically 7 of 9 says, I wouldn't get too excited about seeing Captain Shaw. Lower your expectations is what she says. And we enter the bridge of the Titan A. I heard that the bridge was sparsely populated, although I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crewmen on stage or on screen. And I think it's just far too spacious. It looks sparsely populated. And that's disregarding Commander Hansen, Admiral Picard, and Captain Riker. I think that there are plenty of people on this bridge.
Yep.
I just think that it's far too big.
Maybe, but they're also haven't left space dock yet.
True, that's true. Oh, there she is, Miss America. So Sydney LaForge, with echoes of Demora Sulu, and some playful jibing from Captain Riker. Didn't you have a nickname in Starfleet Academy? Crash LaForge.
Another part of that was another part that made me laugh. I thought that was funny.
Well, and
expertly by Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do. Oh, sorry, Jill.
Yes, and I do know that Ensign LaForge is LeVar Burton's real daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Nepotism.
A little bit, but I do appreciate that she is presented as someone who is not perfect, that as she should be. She's a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, good point. I haven't seen any like Mary Sue's yet.
No,
Have you?
there aren't. No,
which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I do enjoy Sydney's sort of demeanor.
Yeah,
and we get to see the Titan leave space dock. No need for a champagne bottle. What do you think of the design of the Titan in the Neo Constitution?
Well, I think in the name, right? The Neo Constitution. You get, because it's a little bit of the old and the new put together. I don't know. It's fine.
I'm glad they didn't waste any champagne. It's such a waste of alcohol.
It is, and yes, agreed.
Or synthahol.
True.
And so,
in that case, throw.
Well, let me ask you this, Scotty. We'll turn it around. Do you like the ship? Do you like the design?
I do, but I don't like the classic saucer.
Yeah.
There's something about it that is, and putting the classic saucer atop, like, and that looks like an ambassador class secondary hull. It does look like New Trek nacelles, which are a little too disco ball for me. But yeah, I out of the ships that I've seen, hey, it's not doing too badly.
It's not the worst, but it's not definitely not the best.
Right.
Just kind of
and I suppose I'll get used to it the more we see her. But we may
be seeing a lot more of it.
Well, and we will see. We will see. It depends on. I don't even know what the fate of Captain Shaw will be. But we have Commander Hansen. I'm gonna bounce back and forth between 7 of 9 and Commander Hansen.
You can tell
I
think, to me, it seemed like she wanted to be called 7 of 9 still, or 7.
Yes. Oh yeah, and she's absolutely. Hey, that's what you should call her. That is what she's been calling herself. And even when she comes back in Picard seasons 1 and 2, she doesn't call herself Annika.
No,
she calls herself 7. So I would say that is her name. And it's kind of a dick move for the captain to say, this is what I'm going to call you because that is your human birth name. And she has had a lifetime of not being Annika Hansen.
Right. And I think and Captain Shaw, in my opinion, shows his cards at this meal right here.
Absolutely.
About why he insists on her calling herself.
And if
Hansen,
you could, if
7.
you guys could excuse me for just 1 second, I'm going to top up my tea, and then I don't know if you want to hit up the chat, but or if you'd like to discuss the entrance of the admiral and captain into the presence of the new.
Sure, I could read the chat while while you step away?
Sure, thank you.
I want to say hello. Hey,
Hey,
Tim Possible. And he is barfing. What did you think, Tim Possible? I guess maybe you're sick. Hope you feel better.
Either that or he doesn't like Star Trek. I don't know.
I don't know.
Or maybe he didn't like this episode.
Well, it was 10% of a movie, like you said.
Yeah.
So what am I going to say? Hello to DJ Ronnie G. He says an anachronism. And Canadian Spider-Man is saying to the starship, I wouldn't kick it out of bed for eating crackers.
Right.
He says that's a nice looking ship. Right. Okay. So they did kind of get the ship sort of right. And that's the impression that I got from it before I saw the series, hearing people talk about what they thought of the series. They were really excited about the ships. And it makes sense that they kind of get them right because they're taking them straight from the video game, Star Trek Online.
Right. I actually like all the ships I've seen so far in this episode, and the space station. Those were highlights to me.
Yeah, if only they would light the inside of the ship the same way that they're lighting the outside of the ship. We'd have something here.
You know, the new memo for all new Trek, it's going to be dark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't like it. But I think what they don't want to do is go back to the super bright, next gen, where everything is like super bright.
Well, they don't have to.
But they don't have to. No, they could actually just light it correctly.
Yeah, no argument. Admiral Teague continues with his assessment, saying the shuttle dialogue was idiotic and delivered horribly. Disagree.
I disagree too.
I'm sort of in between Steve and Admiral Teague, right in the middle there. It was the dialogue wasn't that impressive to me, but it wasn't that egregious either.
DJ Ronnie G, welcome. Is doing a Lovitz impression. I hate it. It stinks. Sorry, I'm trying to find. Jill, what's the timestamp on DJ Ronnie G?
On that one, I hate it.
Yeah, just so I know where to pick up from.
Okay, it's 11:42, but for you it's 12:42.
12:42. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I don't know if I stopped where you were.
You know what? I'm gonna blame you. Hey, Sci-Fi Nation is here.
Well, I was just bouncing around where I thought looked interesting.
Oh, and Ben from Cinema Gulp is here. There we
go.
Ben.
Nice. Hey, Ben.
All right. And
I think I picked a good spot, actually.
Yes. And also, I don't know if this will come up. I don't think it will. Oh, yeah, it will. But this is from Twitch. Vengeance Sends says Steve has a beautiful face, and
thank you very much.
I could not leave that disregarded.
No problem. Thank you.
And I kind of like this comment from Canadian Spider-Man, actually, because I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm trying to hide it. There we go. Now it's
just keep it up the whole stream because that's what we need to hear it.
Yep.
Canadian Spider-Man. I like how he says she needs to be 7 of 9. That was always her name. I really do need to do a rewatch of Voyager, but I feel like something of Annika died when she was assimilated, and so that's why she keeps 7 of 9 as her name.
And I think this is along with so that the name thing, also the fact that when these guys show up to their dinner, the captain's sitting there eating already. So I think these are all just they're all just devices to show you how much of a dick this guy is. He's a douche, and I think that's it's just story points to let you know that we don't like this guy. Or at least we don't like him right now.
I kind of don't dislike him that much.
Yeah, Admiral Teague says Captain Shaw did nothing wrong. I don't think he did anything horribly egregious. I think that he doesn't like the surprise inspection. I think he's acting like a Jellicoe or even a Styles.
Yeah.
Well, but Jellicoe was the intruder on the Enterprise. He was the one coming in, usurping Picard's spot. In this case, it's Picard that's invading Shaw's ship.
Right.
The trope of the dickhead admiral is something that has been always a part of Star Trek, and it's funny to see this time it's Picard.
It's Picard. Yeah.
Which,
No, I
you
don't.
know,
I agree. I don't think Shaw did anything wrong. I mean, it's a bit uncouth to start a dinner without your guests, but other than that, making the 7 call herself Annika instead of what she wants to call herself sucks. But I think once we get into the dinner discussion, we see why he did.
Well, this is another problem with some of the dialogue. Like, some of it is okay in terms of the story structure. It does fine. But he also talks like he's from our century, using current vernacular like intro, loosey-goosey, and congrats.
Yes, it isn't as formal. And again, yes, like I can't disagree with that in terms of maintaining the same semblance of the same cadence of dialogue that we were used to for 30, 40 years. So it is, but again, it's an updating for modern audiences, and I know that that's something that I'll get pilloried for. But
I don't think it was written. So the way it landed for me is that he intentionally uses those words in that vernacular in that way to make the point to them. That usually that wouldn't be the way he speaks normally. Loosey goosey, that kind of. It was intended to be an insult, in a way.
Yes. Oh, and absolutely. And some of I enjoyed the response on like from the performance from Jonathan Frakes when Captain Shaw says, "Oh well, your reputation preceded you so far into the room that I decided to start without you." And Riker gives him a look like, "What the shit you just say, bitch?
Fuck you."
Yeah. I would like to highlight from Lemon Pie, 7 of fine. Am I right? Yeah, you are correct. Yep. I love a lady in uniform.
This very day.
Yes. And Canadian Spider-Man is seconding that motion. 7 of fine. Hereforth, let it be known. And PvP says, I pray she will stay her rational, analytical self. Fingers crossed. Yeah. And
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it as well.
She hasn't. They haven't deviated that character that far away yet, and hopefully they don't. In this season, I don't think so. I think we're gonna get. I think we're gonna. From what I see so far, the characters that we know are keeping keeping on the right track. They're not deviating, not wild swings away from, the original series that they were in.
Well, she is wildly different from what she was in Voyager. She was a lot more introverted, a lot more analytical. Like
that's not what he's saying. I mean, from what we've had in these last 2 seasons.
Oh, right. Yes, they do follow. They do follow its own canon. Yes, agree with that. Especially the part where she mutinies and disobeys her captain and betrays. Right. Betrays him, so that does follow her character of the past 2 years.
We'll get to that.
Yes, and PvP does say that he likes the ship, but it is in the writing is what matters, not the ship. Yes, I can agree. Special effects support a story, and so far, with the adversarial nature of Captain Shaw against the obvious ruse of Riker and Picard.
But I think the ships and the artwork and the visual effects, the space dock, all of that sets the tone, sets the mood, sets the scene.
Agreed.
So I do believe it's equally important.
Absolutely. And I am scrolling through. If I do miss your chat, I do apologize. But I am, again, we're an hour and a half in, and I think we're halfway through the episode, but we do get Shaw basically casting aspersions at our heroes for what it is. And
which he's not wrong.
No,
not wrong.
I don't. Again, when you have the intruder admiral, this is the guy. 5 years, 36 missions. This is not how you do things. Also, would you like to change your bullshit story, Admiral? We're going to Deep Space 4. That's been shut down for a year.
Right.
And so this is the attempt to get to the Righton sector. And he flat out says,
No.
nay.
He says no.
Mm.
And it's kind of a shock in a way. You're like, is he really going to tell him no? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's his call. It's his ship.
Like, nope. It makes no qualms, no bones about it. No, we're not doing that.
He refuses.
I am wondering if this was actually a direction to just someone said to him, Patrick, can you do the Picard facepalm? Can you just do it to the extreme?
Right.
And he does. And so they are thwarted at this point, and they know it. And basically say, well, what do we do? What's our backup? What's our pivot? And aside from mutiny, we got nothing. And while I didn't get the shot of it, there is an image of 709 standing there looking rather sternly at the backs of Riker and Picard, because what the hell are you guys up to?
Right. The wheels are turning. Right. She's like,
Meanwhile, back on Metalis Prime, we do see a shot of La Sirena. I thought we weren't going to get La Sirena, but there it is, parked. And yeah, Jill, ugly.
It is an ugly ship. Straight up.
We do reestablish Raffi's granddaughter, and the reason that she's doing it all, it reminded me a little bit of Sandman in Spider-Man 3. I have a daughter. This is why I'm doing it.
Yeah, but her son won't let her see.
Right. So
her
this is
her granddaughter.
This is as close as it will happen. She doesn't look half Romulan, which is strange, but we'll allow it. And so we get the debriefing with the Starfleet intelligence handler. As you can see through the screen, it's denied in terms.
How do you feel?
How do you, in terms of, well, good call, in terms of being text messaging, as to what can be, whether or not there's going to be a face-to-face. So yes, this is probably the unresolved of the episode that does not get addressed later on. We don't know who Raffi's handler is at all.
Right. Nameless, faceless AI.
Yeah, as far as we know so far, but we do basically the AI Starfleet intelligence handler says, speak freely, and Raffi says, I've got the name, the Red Lady from the Orion, and you have no idea how hard it is to be a part of this world. And the AI or the handler through text says, actually, I do, flashing all of the indiscretions of Raffi Musiker. Dishonorable discharge, paranoid, obsessive, and combative, 13 court-martial level offenses, which is something that was pointed out to me by Admiral Teague earlier today. Yes, 13.
That sounds about right.
And then from the psychological profile, substance abuse. So easily manipulated as a Starfleet intelligence officer. No argument.
Yeah, so then why is Starfleet still employing her as an intelligent agent when having such difficulties would preclude her from operating effectively?
Well, if it's anything like our current intelligent apparatus, that's exactly who they employ for that kind of mission. CIA uses people like this all the time.
Yeah, but Starfleet doesn't.
No, but well, we don't know. But see, this. I think this goes back to what Scotty was saying earlier. Mm-hmm. We don't really know because we haven't really been told yet what the political landscape is for Starfleet. It's obviously it's not the Starfleet that we know of for Next Generation or Voyager.
No, because Kurtzman's Trek's not allowed to be a beacon of hope or anything good.
Well, maybe, and maybe there's obviously the Dominion War happened, and all the Borg stuff happened, and. So we just don't know yet, right? Hopefully we get to know some of that during this season. Hopefully that plays, because it seems like the table's being set here for that.
Well, and also I would like to point out, just based on the service record, she did receive the Starfleet Decoration for Valor and Gallantry in 2385. And Starfleet Medal of Honor in 2399. So she is not without her merits also. She's
Sure.
not just a insubordinate, obsessive, and combative officer, but she has done some good, which may be reflected in any sentencing. And Tim, you're asking for the link. If you've seen it, you're more than welcome. If not, unfortunately, we're trying to get through. Not trying to get through. We're just doing our best to outline the episode as best as we can. And then maybe once we get through the plot, if you want to join, I'm going to be hanging out for a while. I don't know if anybody else feels obligated, but I'm more than happy to talk about Star Trek since forever. But we do have the guest quarters that, I guess this is Captain Shaw being a dick.
Captain Shaw.
Yeah. So here you go. Here are your bunks in the cadet quarters or the lower decks, common rooms, bunk beds. And again, with every passing moment, we're wondering what is going to be happening to Beverly. She's wounded and she is outside of Federation space. And this is where Picard says, what if we're too late? What if we get there and she dead? Which is a valid concern.
Yeah, but Shaw puts Hansen in charge of the con, but Seven, she abandons her post to confront Picard and Riker.
This is the observation lounge, which I think doubles for the ready room because they do come out of this room directly onto the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it is...
Okay, thank you. This is the ready room.
Yes, essentially. Like when LaForge says... Commander Hansen requests your presence in observation. It is shown in the establishing shot that there is a stairway that goes into something that looks like a ready room. Observation / ready room may be the same thing in this ship, would be my guess. But this is where Seven is basically, guys, what the hell are you up to? And Riker gives, she's like, what is all this shit? And Riker says, Commander, is that any way that you address an admiral? And she says, that's how I address a friend. And Picard waves it off, which I think is an interesting way to address a lot of the insubordination that we see in modern Star Trek, which is prevalent. And this is one of those times where it's like, yeah, it's kind of allowed. Like, it's almost like... pushing back against officers is not necessarily unheard of, but I do like how Riker is still...
It's not, when it's a logical reason and when there's a good reason for it. And this wanting to know why they're on the ship is a good reason.
Yeah. But I do like Riker's response. He's still a captain. He's still a captain in, you know what I mean? So there's still, that what's the word? I'm looking for a word.
Reverence?
But that esprit de corps is still inside of him, even though they're out breaking the rules.
Right. And so, but there is still a chain of command, and it doesn't really matter. He needed she needed the explanation as to what was going on. Picard does say that Dr. Beverly Crusher is outside of Federation space. She's wounded, and we are trying to get there as quickly as possible. Seven knows who Crusher is, or at least has heard of her, and says, here we are. And here we are. We see that, I never noticed that it wasn't a full saucer. I don't know. Anyway, we are in the Ryton sector, and the... Helios is just in 200 meters from within the nebula's outer area, so they can't do any bioscans to find out if anyone is alive. Right. And so 7 to 9 says in 4 minutes, and I do mean 4 minutes, someone is going to be stepping away from Shuttlecraft 3. If you want to, you could go. And they say, okay. And they do. They bust it to the shuttlecraft, at which point we do see that Captain Shaw is having a nap. I kind of thought that he was a little drunk from dinner. That's why he's so soundly sleeping. sleeping it off a little bit, but he wakes up to the rumbling of it arriving outside of a nebula.
Yeah,
And
he thought he could trust his first officer,
which is something that you usually do. And obviously, 7 of 9 hasn't been first officer for 5 years. I don't know how much time has passed between seasons 2 and 3 of Johnny Stew, but yeah.
It seems like a considerable amount of time to me, though, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would say that there had to be some level of education happening with 7 to be able to get her fast tracked through Starfleet to commander. Although with her extracurriculars, I would say she's more than qualified to be a commander.
Right.
And we do first things first. Admiral Teague says, "Why do they want the Titan to go here when Bev said no Starfleet?" It was a workaround because it's the only way they could get there, and Riker was pulling strings. So this is not sanctioned by Starfleet. No one in Starfleet, aside from 7 of 9, Picard, and Riker, know what's going on. So trusting no one, but using their stuff seems to be okay. And PvP says, Riker,
until now.
But they don't know why. No one knows why they're going to this location.
No,
in space.
That's true. Nobody does.
And PvP says, Riker, a captain of what ship? True.
The Titan.
He doesn't have. No, he's not captain of the Titan anymore. This guy is.
He was the captain of the Titan.
He doesn't have one now.
Yes,
no, he doesn't have a ship now.
And that is something that Shaw busts his butt about and says, yeah, you are a captain, but you don't have a chair. You don't have a ship. So your authority is moot here.
Yeah.
But yeah. So understood. Oh, I just stuck the cursor in his mouth.
Don't let them promote you.
Don't let them do anything that takes you off the bridge of that ship. So we have stolen a shuttlecraft and we are headed towards the ship that is within the nebula. And Riker says, what of you? And Picard says that it's the one that we were chasing half our lives.
I wanted to say something about 7 that I had here. 7, why I think she does it. Some dialogue that I didn't appreciate. She says that she doesn't appreciate being first officer in Starfleet, that she just wants to be a ranger again, because even as first officer, she doesn't feel like she's able to lead the way she wants to, and that she just went into Starfleet because Janeway and Picard told her to. And so this is also a momentous occasion for New Trek. This is the first time ever that this particular show has even acknowledged the existence of Voyager. But,
not true.
Right.
Okay.
Well, no, they do bring up Janeway in season 2 of
okay. See, I didn't get past episode 3.
They do.
So,
but I did like the fact that they brought her name up again.
Yeah.
In this first episode. So that was cool.
And anyway, I guess she just didn't want to be she doesn't want to do this, I guess. And if she feels like she can't even be a leader from first officer position, is she a good leader to begin with anyway?
Well, and also one of the things that I found a little jarring and I booed out loud when I heard it was after 7 of 9 says, I don't like taking what am I going to do if I'm just going to sit around and take orders? And Picard says, well, if you ever figure that out, let me know, because I never did, which is a blatant lie. Following the chain of command is something that Jean-Luc Picard is very good at.
Absolutely. It's fine if 7 wants to do that, but it makes no sense for Picard to empathize with that. I agree.
So we're going. Beautiful view. We chased it all of our lives, says Picard, and then Riker says and missed it for the other half, which I thought was, again, we're seeing these. There are, just like with the rest of New Trek, there are parts where I see the Star Trek that I remember and love, and I do find it to be somewhat few and far between. But when it comes to this episode, it's not as few and far between. But we see the shuttlecraft being taken away, and now we have Raffi back on La Serena being very, very upset about, I did not get it. There is a point where she slams down a pad and it breaks. The glass on it breaks because apparently transparent aluminum is not a thing.
Right.
And so she's frustrated and she's going through the investigation as to what the Red Lady could be. Is it a buyer? No. Is it a seller? No. Is it a ship? No. Could it be a target? And it is
The Red Lady.
the Red Lady, a giant statue commemorating Captain Rachel Garrett from the Enterprise C, who was lost at the Battle of Narendra 3. You'll recall from yesterday's Enterprise.
Yep.
And while Rachel Garrett may not be the most obvious of member berries, or Roddenberries, as someone said on Twitter, I like it because, again, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, if you know who Rachel Garrett is, you get rewarded for knowing the history of Star Trek. And these jangly keys aren't necessarily fan service for people who are like, oh, I know what a phaser is.
Right.
Yeah, but at least in this case, it was more as a reference to help Rafi figure out where to go rather than just a member berry for the sake of it.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah, it wasn't a jangly key.
Right. And, where was it? And this is, there we go. Apparently this is
on the screen.
It doesn't look like it. This looks like an Sovereign class, which is
wrong, right?
Yeah, that's it. Looks like the Enterprise E or F.
Oh, F might be F.
This looks like the Prometheus a little bit. This looks like an Akira class. This is an orbital station, and this looks like the facility itself that is based on the heading that Raffi makes. She maximum warp to District 7. It is never established where District 7 is, but we are on Metalis Prime still. So wherever District 7 is, that's where they're headed to. I do not believe it is Earth. It could still be on Metalis Prime.
You're right. They do not specify the location. I tried to find it.
It is where cadet training outpost of some kind, right?
Yeah, it's actually Starfleet recruitment.
Okay. Yeah.
Starfleet recruitment, and that's where they are going to have this. And then we do get a little bit more La Sirena. Here it is, and there's the Red Lady, the commemoration. But that is not going to be there much longer. Now,
yeah, Rafi's just a little too late.
And apparently her signal is jammed. And
From
so
space
that
tunneling, buddy.
From the quantum tunnel. So I, as soon as I saw it, I kind of went, oh, portal gun. Right. So it goes boom, it falls inward, and then it shows up over there and falls on the other part of the city.
That is a good analogy, a portal gun. Very good description of exactly what happens.
And so I thought that was sort of interesting to be able to cause that much devastation. And one of the things, it was very strange because I've been recently watching I watched Shin Godzilla and Shin Ultraman, and hearing crowds screaming from a distance for some reason gets the hair on the back of my neck to stand up. And that is exactly what happens here. The terror of the destruction, which I think is something that we also don't get very much of in Star Trek in terms of this threat is real. There are people in danger. And Raffi, are there ever? There are people in danger, and Raffi responds to it with the horror that is justly deserved.
She's obviously she gets there late, so she did she did punch in a heading and took off. We don't see that, so she had to fly somewhere. I don't think this is Metalis Prime then, because it seems to me she would have gotten there in time if it was, but it had to be a nearby planet or system.
Yeah, wherever Sector 7 is.
Yeah, District 7. Right?
District 7. Yeah. And that's the thing. District 7. I kept thinking of like, District 9. District 9.
Yeah, right.
But so meanwhile, back in the Righton sector, we have the Elias and we have the shuttlecraft going into it. They scan for Beverly's biosigns, and also I don't know what Beverly Crusher's middle name is. Do you guys know?
No.
Weird. So apparently it starts with a C.
Yeah.
So
Clementine.
this is strange because they dock with the Elios, and Picard says he's getting an adrenaline rush, which is interesting for an android. Riker says his knees are killing him, which is kind of an in-joke for everyone who knows that Riker or Jonathan Frakes has had a knee and back issue since his days of being a moving man.
Right. That's why he straddles chairs and lifts his leg on
Right.
rocks.
Yeah. And so Riker says, well, but between your stiff hands and my knees, things should go very, very well as long as we don't have to shoot or move.
Oh, Beverly Crusher's middle name is actually G, but we don't know what the G is.
Oh, really? C?
Is what?
G.
Well, he said C, so I just wanted to correct that.
It's a G?
No. That's not a G. Is it?
Oh, no, it is a C. You're right.
Based on I'm just comparing it to the C from Crusher. It could be a G. It could be a C.
Beverly Clementine Crusher.
Beverly Clementine. Or Beverly Clementine. That's great.
We just don't know what the C is for.
So as we jump onto the Helios, there's been phaser fire, possibly 3 assailants, and it's nice to see. And I didn't get a shot of it or a still of it, but it was nice to see Picard and Riker doing away team things together. And there is even a throwaway joke where he's like, "Captain," and Picard's like, "Hey," and it's like, "Sorry, old habits," which I thought was kind of cute. And they find the cryotube or biotube or however you want to refer to it with Beverly inside. And as Picard calls to Riker, we get to see this guy escorting Riker to the bridge by phaser point. And it is what looks to be a original series movie era Starfleet phaser. As opposed to the phasers that I didn't even take a pic. Did I? There is a phaser there. You can't really see it.
Maybe someone should turn on the lights.
Maybe someone should turn on the lights.
Light the ships properly, please.
But it looks more like a disruptor than it does a Federation phaser, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I enjoy the Dustbuster and the Cobra heads, and I wish that they would stick to more Next Generation so that it didn't look so aggressive as a weapon. But
the car alarm, the little car alarm.
The little car alarm.
But we also know that sickbay must be in disrepair because her stasis pod is just hanging out on the bridge.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and exactly. And I'm curious about the nature of the ship itself, like class wise and everything like that. It seems like a little ship.
Science medical ship, probably.
More than likely. Something akin to the Pasteur, but more modern. But yep, there's the phaser, and again, you'll see why I call it like a Romulan disruptor because it has that hand guard, and I don't like how it's a gun. Yeah. But one of the other things that I didn't like, and I discussed this with Teague on his channel a little while ago, is I don't like when people use 2 hands to hold a phaser. I am big fan of a single-handed phaser. There is no recoil when you're projecting light, no matter how powerful it is. So I do like the one-handed bravado. So Picard says, we're here to help. This young lad says, what makes you think that we want your help? And they say, well, this is Beverly, and she's in the cryotube. There are no controls on the inside, so someone must have put her in there with care from the outside, at which point he starts to lower his weapon, and Riker punches him in the face, takes his phaser, and they basically say, who are you? And he says, her son. Thoughts? None? Great.
Well, you actually had the best response earlier when you told me our English accents
genetic.
I thought that was funny.
I'm assuming, like, are we all on the same page saying that that this is Jean-Luc and Beverly's son out of wedlock? Is that a thing that we're going to get down the pipe?
It's the first thing I thought.
I think so.
Okay.
That seems to be the implication.
We will see. And if that is the case, I think one of the things that when we were discussing it right after, Jill, and you said that you don't like the overused trope of the long lost offspring.
No, it's been done so many times. Right?
Yes.
With Picard, actually, twice.
Yes. And it's going to be something that weighs heavily on this actor and this character throughout until it becomes justified. Like, this is not something that I'm excited for.
Me neither. And hopefully, maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised, and they won't go that route. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll find out. Maybe Beverly's just attracted to Englishmen or Frenchmen with English accents.
Right.
So the apparently the warp core destabilizes. I don't know why that's relevant because they weren't at warp. There are multiple ship signatures that are incoming, and this young man, and we're going to call him Jack because Jill found out. Jill found out that this guy's name is Jack, and so Jack says, we're being hunted, and of course Picard and Riker say, by whom? And he says, see for yourself.
And of course, not knowing these aliens, that doesn't really help us.
At all.
No. They're just in these orange glowy boomerang ships.
Well, yes. And this is the final shot of the episode. And
it was awesome, by the way.
Yes. It's properly menacing, properly big, although again, I'm sort of looking at the Helios as being a smaller ship. I don't know if this is representative of the size of what would be like a counterpart in the Federation. Is it that much bigger than, say, the Titan, or is it just because the Helios is a small ship?
Probably. I took it as it was just a smaller ship, but
okay.
I could be totally wrong. I don't know.
And then
some people establish it in the show how big that ship is.
No, not in this episode because we don't even have a banana for scale.
Right.
So yeah, and some people have speculated that this is a Romulan ship. I'm not 100% sure, although it does fall in line with something like the Narada from Star Trek 09. But in terms of it looking, but it doesn't look like a Romulan warbird. It doesn't look like the Scimitar. It doesn't look like any Romulan ship that I've seen. And if it does look similar to any of the Romulan ships from the end of Picard season 1, then I could be totally mistaken. But that's the end of the slides, kids. That's the episode. Then we get credits. I didn't get any of the LCARs because I didn't want to show any of the credits because there was nothing. I could go through them at a later date and find out if they are relevant simply because
they are. They're actually there's some there are some Easter eggs in there, and so let's pull those next. Maybe next time, and
sure.
We can kind of go through those.
Well,
there's not a ton. It's just jangly key kind of stuff.
Well, you were worried that they weren't going to put Jerry Goldsmith's name, and they do put him in the end, and they wait until the very end of the credits to show his name, but at least it's there. And also Alexander Courage, since they do a lot of sampling from his thing.
Oh, what was it? I was watching. I think it was Screen Crush, and they said that they had the opening strains of the Star Trek theme from Star Trek First Contact, and they said dun, 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 and they didn't even say that it was Alexander Courage, which I thought was, come on, guys, pronounce things, figure out the references.
Yes, and there one more thing in the dedication, they had in the end credits had a dedication for Annie Annie Wershing.
Yes, the Borg Queen from Picard season 2.
Right. And she was also in Star Trek Enterprise, the episode Oasis.
Okay. And she tragically passed away at the age of 45 just very recently.
Yeah. Last month.
But yeah, so that is the end of the episode. I am going, let's see how far behind I am in the chat. Oh, incredibly so. So I'm going to go to about half an hour ago and then run from there. Actually, I know exactly where I'm going. Canadian Spider-Man says substance abuse is such a vague term.
That's true. What's the substance? It makes sense to point that out. And I think they do mention they mention the name of the drug Rafi's using? I don't know.
I don't think so.
They do in Picard season 1, they reference like something leaf. But I didn't, at that point, I was like, really? Seriously? We're not supposed to have potheads in the 24th century.
Sticks.
Right. Correct.
Admiral Teague says, why isn't Raffi in jail with 13 felony charges? They were all false? Again, I would say that it's easily manipulative to take her. Well, why did Tom Paris get to be the pilot of the Voyager?
Because they were stranded out in the middle of nowhere, and they pretty much had to accept the Maquis as crew members, or they wouldn't have survived.
No, but originally at the beginning of Voyager, it was Janeway who goes and takes Tom from a penal colony.
Yes, that's true.
There is a forgiveness of crime if you are useful to Starfleet, which is something that has been since, well, at least the beginning of Voyager.
But all he did was that maneuver that he shouldn't have done during.
Different guy. It's not Nicholas Locarno.
I know. I just couldn't help it.
No, it's good. It's good. I still think they're the same guy. Lemon Pie says, Scotty won't let you get off scot-free. Fair enough. Let's see. Admiral Teague says, can anyone point out one time we've gotten a payoff when you talk about table setting? In terms of this episode alone, I would say in terms of introducing the Red Lady and then revealing it to be the dedication statue for Captain Garrett, that would be a setup and a payoff. In terms of the Hellfire, Hellbird, in terms of that, what is Hellbird? Well, you wait 3 minutes and they tell you. There have been setups and payoffs.
All right. It was a virus, I guess. Was that virus written by the Borg? I don't know who wrote it. It wasn't clear who created that virus, but it was a virus. Yeah,
I thought it was a computer virus that what was introduced to the Enterprise computer when Picard was Locutus, when he had been assimilated. They do say that.
But as far as going backwards, you can't. But I mean, that shouldn't inform how we view going forward, right?
Well, and that's part of the reason why this is so contentious.
Yeah, it should, because it's been created and it's a part of that past.
Different showrunner, different writer.
But he still has to
agree. I just don't agree with that.
I would love if he would just retcon it and say, let's fuck all of that and write something good. But he's obviously accepting it as it's past.
And it seems to be a damned if you do and damned if you don't in terms of evolving into something better. That I don't see that as being a negative. Have there been payoffs and setups and payoffs in the past? Yeah, none of them really all that good. In terms of New Trek, in terms of their season-long story arcs, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Teague. This one, as far as we've seen so far, it has left me interested into what's coming up. And so far, they've had setups and payoffs that have worked in this one episode.
In this one episode.
So that would be my stance on it. Teague says, why does a robot of Picard have the rank the dead man earned? How is that robot an admiral? That is, from what I understand, there is going to be some sort of reference to it in the later episodes. But as far as the end of Picard season 1 has been, he is, by virtue of the technology that Alton Soong developed, it is a transferring of the consciousness into an advanced android body. That is the explanation as to how that happened. If you agree with it, you do. And if you don't, you don't. We he could be mining dilithium if you'd prefer to watch that particular show. Pleasant Valley Picture says, F insubordination. Agreed. I do agree with that. And but I think that it is something that is addressed by Picard. Let's see. And Admiral Teague says, Captain Shaw was right. Hansen was not loyal Starfleet and hijacks the ship. And Shaw says so, very specifically. You just loyaltied your way out of a career.
Yeah.
Yes, I do appreciate that because, again, we're getting somebody making references to the consequences of certain actions that should be reprimanded. I would have been even happier if he would have tossed her in the brig.
Well, and it was a quick interaction because we had to jump over to both Raffi and the shuttle. So we don't know, and maybe
he may still do that.
yeah, we may find Annika in the brig the next time
I
we.
think, and with a couple of cellmates when
Well,
they get back to the ship.
yeah, but again, nobody knows that 709 is countermanning Shaw's orders because Shaw seems to be the only captain in the fleet who doesn't go to the bridge until things go south.
Yeah.
Teague says fun did not commence at any point during this mess. If the smile of Commander Riker can't melt your heart, I don't know if there's any possible way.
One of my favorite lines in this episode. Shut it, Will. It was awesome.
Well, and in response to nice recovery, Admiral.
Right.
And then, shut it, Will.
Shut it. Will.
I liked that. Tim Possible says trash. Brilliant. And yeah, Tim. Love your body, Larry. Admiral Teague says Picard and Riker are now mutineers who have stolen from the Federation. Yep, that was the plan.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasant Valley Picker says chat don't matter. That's not true, dude. We had an hour-long episode to get through with the slides, and I'm doing my best. We're at 2 hours. Yeah. So I apologize if I'm skipping the highs, and I'm doing my best to get through. But yeah.
Well, yes, and he makes several comments like this, and so I did have to time it out for a little bit because.
Oh no. And again,
I was just hoping to get him to stop doing that. And yes, we definitely do want to read the chat, but we also want to get through the episode because somebody watching on the replay is going to want to show.
Yeah. Exactly. We are nothing without the chat, but the chat is nothing without the show, and we are mutually beneficial. It's a symbiosis of sorts. We are the host, and you are the symbiote. Think of us as Trill. Admiral Teague says Trader Hansen killed about 80 people in 2 or 3 minutes of season 1. If you're counting the Romulan ship, that's possible. I thought that was the La Sirena who did it, but if you're talking about her rampage in the bar with the lady who looked like Troy, I think it was like 10. It was like 10 people.
I'm with Admiral Teague. She killed a bunch of people.
She did kill a lot of people. I'm not forgiving.
Yeah, to me, I don't care. Season 1 and 2 are completely wiped away. We're here to talk about season 3. Yeah, and I think I think it's important to remember. I don't think it informs anything going forward. I mean, there may be some threads here, but I don't think we're going to get a lot of threads from season 1 and season 2. I think this is going to be pretty much its own thing, with just certain character threads that obviously had to carry over.
Well, what's the phrase? Perfunctory. It's going to be the things that we have to address because they have been set up in the first 2 seasons, and whether we like them or not. And there are a lot of people who don't.
Well, and the biggest thing in Star Trek is figuring out who your antagonist is, and we don't figure that out in this episode. So we still really have nothing to say.
In fact, I if I'm not mistaken, I think there are 2 separate antagonists as the season unfolds.
And
not just one overarching big bad.
I can't wait to get there. And then to be self-serving and to plug this channel that you're watching currently. PvP says, I enjoyed your Quantum Leap shows as it was great TV. Man, I'm really enjoying going through those seasons with Jill. We talk about them on Thursday typically, but Jill being one of the most knowledgeable people on Star Trek, I enjoy having conversations with her about it, and we are going to talk about it as long as we have the stomach for it.
Agreed.
But we will be going back to Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap will be back.
Yeah.
Yes. And every leap, hopefully, will be the leap home.
And as we keep going, I think it's just getting better and better because they're including more Al in the episode. So when we're done with Star Trek, we will go back.
Yes,
but I really liked it too. I really liked the leap when Al was more of a part of the show.
Right, they make a great team.
Mm-hmm.
And so Teague says Captain Shaw was right, but he didn't have ovaries, so he's on and off stupid. So the plot works. Great writing. I disagree with that entire statement. I disagree with that. I don't think he was stupid at all. I think he was rigid. And I think there's a big difference there. I think he's a Starfleet man, and he's a by the book guy.
but I don't think he came off as stupid. Do you?
No, I thought he was a hard ass in the vein
Yeah.
of, again, at best he's Captain Jellicoe, at worst he's Captain Styles from Star Trek 3. His worst,
Right. Styles from Star Trek 3, you're right. Because overly safe, because he keeps his ship perfect. Not even dust can harm my ship.
Right.
And
yeah.
I don't know.
And so I don't.
Yeah.
And in terms, again, there have been sort of social justice causes that have been shoehorned into previous iterations of Star Trek. Stacey Abrams was in an episode which I found completely offside. But that is I haven't felt that here, except for the one instance of the what would be perceived as dead naming, if that's how it was looked at. And apparently even that was a subtle reference that Steve didn't get, and Steve is just as sensitive to being slapped in the face with the cod of woke shit as anybody.
And I think that's because you didn't have Seven complaining about it, and that's what was good about it.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, you could tell it bothered her, but she had a bunch of other complaints, right? Like I don't think she's comfortable in this role. Obviously, she doesn't like to be. It's too many rules and regulations for Seven, I think.
But she had enough of that in the collective, apparently.
Yeah, for Shaw, I do think we're going to see a turn. And this is just my speculation. I have no knowledge, but I think I love this actor, by the way. So, but I think we will see a bit of a turn from hard ass, straight laced Starfleet guy to a more accepting marauder of sorts.
Well, and also it's not his first time in Star Trek. I believe he was in an Enterprise episode, and more specifically, the Velcro episode.
I think it was the arc in the 4th season where they're on Vulcan. I believe he plays a Vulcan in Enterprise. One of the lead Vulcan that are after. Oh God!
Like
I can't even remember the names right now.
The prefect.
Yeah, he has a name, but I can't pull it.
Okay, fair enough. But he is a Star Trek alumnus.
Yep.
And and he also was in Terry Matalas's 12 Monkeys television show as well.
Amazing series. If anybody hasn't seen it, do yourself a favor. It's great.
It's one thing to have old Star Trek actors. What I would like to see more of is more of the Star Trek producers and writers.
That would be cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just, until we get rid of,
right. I agree.
Right. I don't think you're gonna. They got their own team that they're. I mean, I thought it's crazy that Terry Matalas even got the shot that he did to do this, and it was just because out of sight, out of mind. Just do whatever you want. That he actually got a chance to do this season the way he wanted to do it. Which is cool.
Oh, it's so far. Lemon Pie says, Teague, are you getting flack for hating it? I did drop Admiral Teague's Saving Star Trek YouTube channel in the chat if you want to check it out. We had a conversation earlier today, and he had another conversation earlier than that. And he makes his opinion clear, as I think he has in the chat as well. People are responding, as PvP said, this is a divisive season. People are either on the I love it to death or I hate it to death. And there doesn't seem to be much in between.
Admiral Teague makes some really great comments.
To be fair, there's nothing to be in between about yet. It's a table setting one episode. So I mean, until we see all 10 episodes, there's no comparison, right? Apples to spaceships.
And I guess now's as good a time as any in terms of, will I be watching the next episode? Yes, because I am looking forward to getting more of the cast members back. Yeah. But do I love this episode? No. Do I hate this episode? No. This is cornflakes without milk. This is very bland to me. There are a couple of rays of sunshine that I can recognize Star Trek in, mostly through Riker. The references are nice in terms of the fan service. I don't think that it's pandering. But is this, like, do I think this is a great episode of Star Trek? Not really. It's meh. I am a fence sitter on this one because it doesn't do enough. It doesn't do anything to make me excited, and it doesn't do anything to make me angry.
So I feel
Mhm.
I feel pretty much the way you do about this particular episode. I didn't expect much from I never do from the first episodes. I do believe this is the best episode of new Star Trek that we've ever had. I don't think there's been a better episode of Picard or Strange New Worlds or Disco. That's a low bar.
Yeah,
I concede it's a very low bar. So it's not look, it's not blowing the shutters off.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
Right.
It's
But
still dark. It's still dystopic, but
I will check it out.
it
I
knows
will
how to
watch.
make a story, sort of. So I'm gonna watch the next one.
Oh, you sound so upset. I guess I'll watch the second fucking.
Well, no, actually, you unintentionally described this episode perfectly when you were paraphrasing someone else's poor review of this episode. They said it's more of the same, and you said that he said like it was basically like taking a dump in the middle of a football stadium, and that's exactly it. The stadium looks nice, like you remember it, and you think you're going to have fun because that's where they have some fun. But someone has smashed all but the emergency backup stadium lights, and they're blinking because there's several power shortages going on. And then in the middle of this pristine field of AstroTurf, where you could probably have a fun game, someone decides to relieve themselves just right in the middle. You can't really see it, but it's there.
Yes, and not a number one, but a number two.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
Yeah.
For me.
Teague says this was 9/11 Building 7 conspiracy stuff, having the building fall on another building. I think it was a disaster, and honestly, in terms of storytelling that has happened since 2001, I think everything has been sort of leaning towards security and defense. And Star Trek is reflective of its time. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, they've just lost sight of allegory. And so if they hit the nail on the head a little too hard with a sledgehammer instead of using a screwdriver for a screw, I can't argue with that, dude.
Yeah, like, but you know what? Like Steve has said, this is well, I can't really use qualifiers like best, but they actually introduce a story element like a weapon that can destroy planets, and then they show the power of that weapon in the same episode. That kind of thing doesn't usually happen in Trek.
And even in terms of Star Trek Patrick Stewart or Star Trek Johnny Stew, this is the first time out of the 3 seasons that the threat is something that I understand, and it's not just some ephemeral there's tentacle people coming from another dimension, or we've sent you to an evil universe that isn't the mirror one, but it's very, very similar and bad. And it's like, I don't get where you're coming from. I don't know what the problem is. What is it? And this time it's like, oh, you have a quantum teleporter portal gun. That's something I can get. I understand that. Is that the base level stupid weapon that they can do to show a threat to me?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's no different than a giant corn chip in space.
Right.
Like the Doomsday Machine is ridiculous unless you build something around it. And hopefully they build something around this quantum device. It was built by the Federation. It was built by Starfleet. It is a weapon, and stealing that weapon is an act of war. Raffi's a warrior. That's what she's on the case for.
Hey, the Doomsday Machine is an ice cream cone. Thank you very much.
My mistake. Did you guys have bugles? They're like little corn chips.
Bugles. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. I'm just thinking of a smaller one, but yeah, ice cream cone makes sense. Lemon Pie says Beverly Sea Crusher. Yeah, I don't get that.
Clementine. Gotta be.
Because that's her middle name. C. It's just C.
It's just C. And what does C stand for? Careless. Not the other C word. Canadian Spider-Man says, see, I like numbers on for shuttlecraft. That makes sense. As opposed to the names. Yeah, especially if you're new on the ship. Galileo's going to be free in a minute. Where's Galileo? Which parking spot is that in? And excellent question. PvP says, Jill, are you on tomorrow?
I plan to be on tomorrow to talk about the movie Her and a bunch of other stuff.
Great movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to watch it after this.
And Canadian Spider-Man is exactly 1,000, even though 100% by definition is all we can give. He is 1,000% correct. Well, we can all agree that we love Star Trek. And the answer yeah. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't know that that's everybody.
I think the people who are the 13 lovers that are here today, and everyone who has been, everyone who's watching it, everyone who is concerned about it, whether they be defending it vociferously or if they are praising it to high heaven, or even just curious to watch it. I think, like, if you are a fan of Star Trek and you're here and you're watching it, then yeah, we do love it to a certain extent, and the emotions are running high because we want to defend it, or we want it to carry forth.
You know, you want it to be good. You want it to be great. I want it to be great.
But
dude, I was resigned to after Picard season 2, and I like Strange New Worlds, not because I thought it was a great Star Trek show. I just like Anson Mount.
Yeah.
So that's that. But I kind of resigned myself to the fact that New Trek is not for me. It's just not going to be for me, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be. You know, I wish it would. I wish it was, as good as
it's really almost the older one.
And
I disagree with that statement, Joe.
But that's
know you do.
That's not true, because there's people there, and there's a lot of young people that love the show.
Terry
I
Farrell.
know, but I don't really. She doesn't watch New Trek.
I know. Her
There's
her favorite character is Sonequa Martin Green.
All the shows, yeah, right.
No, she just likes the Star Trek family, and whoever is on anything labeled Star Trek, she'll be friends with them. Personally, as actors, she doesn't care about the show.
And look at the guy who played Icheb. Like he presented with some going against the grain, maybe based opinions, however you want to say. I think he may have said some things against members of the crew on Discovery, and he was not invited to return. And I don't know if he is maybe he shows up on the Star Trek cruise, but once you start biting the hand that feeds you, you don't end up going to conventions very often.
That's right.
So it does happen. Teague says these phasers were aesthetically horrible and resembled the Space 1999 weapons.
Right. And so Kurtzman ripped his eyes out.
Yes. And so here we go. Admiral Teague predicts the Sun is a clone of Jack Crusher. I don't know. I don't think that they've established cloners.
I don't. Who knows?
I really haven't said for sure.
Teague says, is it Nero's ship or the Nemesis ship? Well, I don't think it looks like the scimitar, and it doesn't. So it bears more resemblance. Ship,
by the way, but no.
Really, the scimitar?
Yeah, I do. I kind of like that ship. I like the design of the ship.
You like Nemesis, though, don't you?
No.
Oh, I thought you did. No, you like Insurrection.
Insurrection, I like.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. It's not.
But to me, it's just a long episode. It seemed like a long regular episode of, not like a movie, right?
Oh, that's a good point. Scogli says there is scale. Remember when the shuttle landed on the top of the ship? That ship is pretty small, and yeah, there is the shuttlecraft. Look at the size of that thing compared to the saucer section, and then we did see the.
You're right. There is scale. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I did like that docking procedure was pretty cool, by the way.
Yeah, I thought it was cool too. And so I PvP, I haven't been ignoring your chats, but it seems like it was a conversation that was going on between you and Jill, and so I apologize for overlooking them. Canadian Spider-Man says Gretchen. Beverly Gretchen Crusher, that's what you want? Don't forget her last name. Her maiden name is Howard. So Beverly C. Howard, BCH. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, but she uses Crusher, no Howard. And it's C, not a G.
Right. So. Lemon Pie says, I've had so much wine that I don't feel great. I feel grape. And PvP says to Canadian Spider-Man, yeah, Jill is the best. Jill is the best.
Thank you.
There we go. Oh, yeah, and absolutely. Teague, you're right. Raffi is addicted to spider weed. That is what they referred to it. And then I'm not 100% sure Admiral Teague, because the Voyager had no choice. No, Janeway had a choice picking up Tom. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, hang on a second. Stop. There we are. Now we don't have to deal with that. What's everyone drinking? Says Lemon Pie. I'm having tea.
But so
I don't have a drink
so
right now.
Catherine Janeway picked up Tom Paris, but would Nicole Janeway have done that?
Like from the Millennium Gate?
No, from
Nope.
the very first actor that was on set for a week and decided, wait, this isn't going to work. She was actually named Nicole Janeway, and then
that's true.
Kate Mulgrew came on and they changed
All right, the other actress.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Geneviève Bujold. Admiral Teague says STD has shown us that the mutiny and the brig are now how you get to be captain. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
DJ Ronnie G. I'm not 100% sure whose belly you have to crawl into, but I wouldn't.
Well,
I don't know.
Because you said we're like the Trill.
Oh,
our relationship with the chat and the show that we're trying
symbiotic
to have.
And DJ Ronnie G, or am I the host? You know what? At this point, I think I belabored the analogy too much.
Big
He
spoon
says,
rolls.
if season 1 and 2 are wiped away, why does Hansen know Picard and Riker? Well, she doesn't know Riker.
I don't. No.
You're absolutely right, Admiral Teague.
I don't think that the show is wiping away the first 2 seasons. I just personally don't. I'm not using those 2 seasons to inform what's going to happen. I'm just going to let it unfold. And
well, it's important also to remember the terrible things that they've done.
But in terms of being introduced and going on, if season 1 and 2 had never happened, how did Raffi still abandon her grandchild for drugs? That's not how that happened. As much as I'm not a big fan of Raffi, that's not how that happened. But I think that,
it's not her child; it's her grandchild.
Right. And then also, it's one of those things that some of the reviewers...
No. Wait, Admiral Teague was right. Sorry. She did abandon her child, and then her child said, "You can't see your grandchild."
Oh, that's true. I guess the grandchild and the child. But yeah, okay, sure. See, I don't think that's how it happened, because she was railing against the idea of the synthetics coming from a different plane of existence. And she became, as her psych evaluation said, she was becoming combative and abrasive and conspiratorial, and she was pursuing that. Everyone was calling her crazy. That's what happened to her career, which is why her son distanced himself from Raffi and then forbade from seeing. So it wasn't the drugs. She fell into drugs because of the nature, her own personal nature.
This episode clearly doesn't wipe away the first 2, and this season clearly doesn't wipe away what happened in the first 2. There are still threads character threads for sure that continue on.
And apparently she has like a real-time ability to see what her granddaughter's up to, even though she can't actually visit her.
I don't know. Maybe those are just old tapes. I don't think that.
Well,
that
she
was a
said,
live feed.
"Good morning."
Well, yeah, no, but have you ever seen the movie Moon? That in Moon, Sam he sees images of his wife and daughter, but they're not live, and he talks to them because there is a delay between seeing them. So I think it's more of a looking at a photo album, being like, "Good morning, this is what I'm doing this for," is so that eventually, hopefully, I can redeem myself to be reunited.
That's possible, but I was also thinking of Men in Black, where the one character would look at his wife.
When Kay would look at when Tommy Lee Jones looked at his wife. Thank you for being vague on that, in case it was the guy who slapped Chris Rock. Admiral Teague says, that we already did that. Oh, there we go. Lemon Pie says, I think we're the Trill and they are the host. That makes sense. And Lemon Pie wants to crawl into me.
Yes, it does make sense.
It does? All right. PvP says, bye.
Sleep.
And thanks for being here, PvP. We'll see you in the future, hopefully. And let's see, how many times has there been mutiny on a Federation ship? How is Shaw not conventionally stupid? How is that not contrived? I don't think it's contrived.
It's pretty convenient that he decides at that moment, you have the con, I'm gonna go to sleep.
But also there is a
it's
well
not
no
stupid.
Well, there are shifts. There are shifts on a
Yeah,
on
exactly.
a,
I do know that
on
that is
on
the
a
case.
vessel. I think the timing is because of the way they truncated the time, right? Just for narrative purpose. I think that's what happens. It
that's
seems like it's all happening all at once, and it actually didn't. It was,
that's why I agree that it's convenient but not stupid.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it stupid.
And then again,
was he not on his game? He should have sniffed it out, maybe.
Well, and again, because they're preparing for Frontier Day and they're just doing routine maneuvers.
But I think when he's berating his first officer, you see that you know I think he thought for sure his first officer would not,
commandeer the ship,
and participate in the mutiny, so
he has confidence in his command, which is something that you do want from a Starfleet officer, that you think that you have this first officer that you can trust her, and he does.
And you can tell he was, he was shocked, and you can tell that he was very upset with her.
Yes.
And her behavior.
And so, I did want to point out, I have in the chat thrown Saving Star Trek, which is Admiral Teague's YouTube channel, where he outlines his opinion on this episode at great length, as is his prerogative. And if you're interested in that sort of side of the conversation, please check it out. Also, Tim's Talk, who did say that Star Trek Picard season 1 episode, or season 3 episode 1 was trash. If you'd like to go see a Star Wars fan discuss Star Wars things, no offense. But no, Tim has wonderful conversations about fandom.
I got a couple books of Boba Fett to show you.
Oh, there you go. Teague says, why be this confident based on 1 hour of not bad Star Trek? Because I want good Star Trek.
I'm not confident in anything.
Yeah. I have more confidence than most because of Robert Martinet. Sitting in my living room, looking him in the eye, and talking about after he had seen the entire season. And he kind of broke it down for me, and he has zero reason to like anything that he doesn't like, right? Or try to convince me of anything. He wasn't trying to convince me of anything.
His evaluation of Star Trek for the past 5 years has been pretty on point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
With what my opinion would be.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
and not like New Trek at all.
I don't like using the word bona fides, but in terms of what Rob's are, he is qualified, and more so than most. Having done the special features on Next Generation, Blu-rays, and Enterprise, having worked on the Star Trek experience, if he likes it, I do have that was I remember seeing the teaser trailer for this season being like, nice try, guys. You want to bring back the band, so I'm going to watch your pile of shit. That's not how this is going to work. And when Rob said, I saw it, and you can go through his channel, and he sits there and basically burns in effigy anything that has happened in New Trek since 2009. And this is something that he is over the moon for. He's seen it all. I've only seen this episode. I'm looking forward to next episode to see if it gets like more. I want to know if it's going to get better, because this isn't the thing that he described to me over the internet. But if he says that it's, and there are other reviewers who I trust who are saying, give it a go. Like, you don't have to watch it because I said so. Just give it a go. And if you like it, good.
Yeah. And if not good, I mean, you don't have to like it. Nobody, then it's just not for you. Like I was saying earlier, I came to the conclusion that New Trek wasn't for me, especially the TV shows. You know, I happen to like out of the 3 movies, I thought Into Darkness, but that was the third one, right? Scotty?
Yeah, Into Darkness
That's
was
the
the second one.
What's the third one?
Beyond.
Beyond. So I thought that was the better of the 3, and I thought all 3 were garbage. But
yes, agreed.
But as for the TV shows, I haven't liked any of the TV shows.
Fair.
And I think this one's going to be, you know, from what I've heard and what I see so far, I have confidence. But we'll see. You know, next week I might hate it.
Yeah, and this TV show is not trying to be a TV show. It's trying to be a next generation movie.
Yes.
Yeah. And I do have confidence in Terry Matalas. What he did with 12 Monkeys was amazing, in my opinion. So, you know, if he brought that same sensibility to Star Trek, which it looks like he did from all the interviews I've seen of him talking about it, and others talking about, you know, that know Terry, like Rob, have talked about it. If he brings that sensibility to this, I think we're in for something cool. And it may not be exactly what every Star Trek fan wants, but I think it's going to be light years better than what we've gotten so far.
Oh, where are we? So that is a season 1 argument, Teague. So I'm gonna. Why do we again see buddy cop stuff in Star Trek? You know, positive relationships between 2 people doing an investigative job is kind of what Star Trek does.
Because it's fun. The banter was fun.
It's nice seeing someone not yelling at Picard for everything he's doing.
Why did you break my heart? And Teague says we got a cool effect, but we're guessing at that weapon that destroys the Starfleet building. I think we've kind of linked it. I think that's something that we are fearful of now, but its origin is the Daystrom outpost. Its effect is a portal gun, and it has been used to destroy a recruitment. I don't think we're guessing. Admiral Teague says this isn't Star Trek. It's bad fanfic. I disagree.
I agree that it's fan fiction, yeah, but except not made by fans. Except Terry is a fan of the movies, not necessarily the TV shows. So this is Star Trek, and if you think it's bad, then that is
plenty of people do. Admiral Teague says Icheb and I are mutual Twitter followers. Nice.
That's not wrong.
And Lemon Pie says, is her a sequel to the Joker? It's a prequel. It's actually a prequel. And Teague says Raffi's son says he was abandoned by her. That makes sense.
And Admiral Teague does remember a lot of the series.
And again, PvP, I hope you have a good night. Unfortunately, dude, it's just a matter of if you've seen the show, you can come on and discuss it. But if not, it would tend to slow down the conversation, unfortunately. And but you're always welcome on the Quantum Leap streams. And if you have something to contribute, I love hearing your voice, bud. Teague says Shaw already didn't trust them and mistreated them. I think he set them up. They're criminals now. Well, yes.
I don't know. I don't think he set them up, but.
No, I don't think that's what he was expecting. Admiral Teague says Robert Meyer Burnett is an old guy who lives in Hollywood and writes sci-fi. His comments are self-serving regarding Picard. Then I would say, can you explain his absolute loathing of Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Picard seasons 1 and 2, his non-interest in Prodigy or Lower Decks? Because if it is self-serving, he's certainly done a lot to alienate himself from that community.
He bashed the 3 movies pretty good too.
Yeah, and even and I would say I like 1 and 3. I don't like 2, and that still puts me at odds with Rob. I'm not saying that he is the savior of Star Trek. I'm just saying in terms of his resume, he's no slouch.
Right.
Lemon Pie says, your bona fide is as big as anyone. I hope you're referring to I don't know what you're referring to, but I'll take it as a compliment. Teague says, because Beyond was a Simon Pegg movie, not a JJ movie. Actually, it was a Justin Lin film.
Very, very, very astute. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's probably why I liked it more than the rest, because it was written by Simon Pegg.
Admiral Teague says, has been pushing New Trek for 12 months. Rob, I guess, but I
No,
don't.
yeah,
He's been pushing this season of
this
Star
season of
Trek.
Picard, not
He
New
has.
Trek.
He hasn't been pushing New Trek. He has not, by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, he has a fairly lengthy yearbook
Yep.
About not. He didn't get asked to Stargate. Now, did he? I don't know. I don't. Jill is more of a knowledgeable individual when it comes to Stargate.
I love Stargate.
I do too. And I hear the creator was trying to make a new Stargate, but I guess he's been shut out.
Yeah. Amazon, I don't know what they're going to do. They gotta figure it out though. That's a great IP for them. Or it could be.
And just as we I'm gonna hang on a second. There, we got it. Just as we close out the last thing,
I wish they would make a new Stargate series so Jill and I can do a show about it.
Nice.
Yeah, but it needs to be made by Brad Wright, and somebody needs to go call Jonathan Glassner, and then maybe we've got a thing
absolutely.
going.
And
yeah, just as long as Secret Hideout or Bad Robot aren't involved in it.
Well, you know who made the Amazon Lord of the Rings? It was Bad Robot. So yeah, I don't want to see that for Stargate.
And Admiral Teague, now I think you're being nasty, brother, because he's a simp for this season. Part of the reason why I don't subscribe to some channels who are dissuading viewers is I've
the entire season 3 times.
I've been called horrible names for being interested in this by people who have the privilege of reviewing it, and I don't think he's pushing New Trek as a whole. I think he's pushing this season specifically, and saying you're wondering why he's unemployed. RMB changed his mind. No, he does have an income,
gainfully employed, and
saying that he's a millionaire is a misconception as to why when people live in Hollywood, apparently they get $1 million. I don't agree with you, and again, I understand your distaste for it, but for people who enjoy Star Trek, I don't think that there's any reason. If there are people who have seen all of this, such as people that you know and respect on the internet, on YouTube, if they like it, are they all simps? Are they all working for? I just don't. I subscribe to that particular adversarial nature. But I appreciate your opinion.
A simp, I'd call him an insider.
And again, and that's I can't say that he's not. I can't say that he's not.
He is an insider, but if you're going to say that he's an insider, so he's a shill. The problem with that is he hasn't shilled for this since 2009. He's hated everything up until this one season that he saw. So I don't see how that's shilling. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. And
he would say, just like he did for everything else, New Trek, he hated it. He didn't. He liked it.
Well, and again, if you dislike this particular piece of work, then I can't argue with you. But I don't think that there's any reason to I don't think that there's any reason to attack the individual who likes it. So that's where it's offside.
I do hope the tone of the show changes, because it still kind of feels like
New Trek.
Trek. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and
I don't know if we're going to get a tonal shift. Maybe it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell from this one episode, but it may have this tone throughout. I hope not. I mean, I hope they play with it a little bit and get creative. It'd be cool. But I don't think it's ever going to feel like Enterprise or Deep Space Nine. No. I don't think no New Trek is ever going to feel like that. That in that kind of tone. I don't see that. Not coming out of this production house, anyways.
And sorry, Teague, but it just, as I mentioned, you're getting a little personal for people who may be friends, and I can't accept it, because that is sort of personally attacking, and I don't appreciate.
Yeah, there's no need for that.
Right.
I mean, look, you don't like something, you don't like it. That's fine. There's no problem.
Yeah. And Lemon Pie says Teague is fatigued with this episode, as am I. We've been going for nearly 3, and I do have a couple more slides to make for her, both Jill and the movie. So, final thoughts on episode 1 of season 3 of Star Trek. Johnny C.
I'll go first because I think I liked it more than both of you. I did like the table setting. I thought we opened up, some mysteries. I thought we, opened up and closed some mysteries, which were really cool and fun. It made it feel more like a complete episode than just a whole bunch of table setting and a whole bunch of mystery boxes. So I enjoyed that, and I appreciated that part of it. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season, and I'm looking forward to next week. I'm looking forward to talking about it with you two.
Yay, me too.
Yeah, me too. And I did recognize that too, that they did introduce elements that weren't just tossed in there just to be there. They had some kind of impact on the story. But I wouldn't call it a complete episode. It was more like the beginning, the first few minutes of the movie. And we don't know anything about the enemy yet. And
yeah. Well, and as you said, Jill, it's hard to gauge based on the first 10% of a story. We don't know anything about anything aside from the fact that there is this threat. We know that Beverly was being hunted. We know that the audience has not been revealed unless they want to do homework for it as to what the name of Crusher's son is. Maybe it's Wesley too. But there's enough that has been answered to intrigue to the point of seeing the next episode, while also living in the shadow of bad hideout.
Yeah.
So
yeah, right. And because of that, it's got to be a planet killer again.
But in this case, it wasn't a planet killer. It was very specific. It was, it was like taking out your favorite football stadium as opposed and then dropping it next door.
Right.
But it didn't blow up the planet. It wasn't the Death Star, which is great.
Yeah.
No, she says I'm talking world-ending shit. So yes, it could.
Yeah, but she's strung out. She's on drugs.
Yeah. What does she know?
She's high.
Raffy. Right?
Anyway. But yeah, so I guess that means that we'll be back next week talking about episode 2. We'll see how long this train keeps going. If you do want to find alternate opinions, either that jive with ours or completely dismiss ours, the internet is a wide world, and I know that there are places that you can find other reviews, some favorable, some un, and I apologize for being so.
No, don't apologize for that. I think it landed like that. No, I think a lot of first episodes for either new shows or even continuation shows or continuing series set the table. You're not supposed to know everything in the first episode. In fact, the first 2 or 3 episodes, Scotty, like I always say, I always give a new TV show 3 episodes to hook me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't hook me in 3 episodes, I'm out.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see.
We will.
I have hope for it, like I did for the first 2 seasons. Unfortunately, those kicked me right in the square in the nuts because they started out strong with the first couple episodes. In fact, I think maybe even stronger than this episode. But yeah, it's a table setting for what looks to be a very interesting season of television.
Let's hope. The worst it can be is boring.
Right.
But thank you, DJ Ronnie G. This was great. Thanks, gentlemen and Jill. Well, thanks for being here, DJ Ronnie G. Appreciate it. And Lemon Pie says, even though I didn't see this episode as a Trek fan, I enjoyed listening to your discussion, panel, and chat, both host and Trill. So thank you very much, Jill. What have you got going on the tubes that are you?
Well, like we were saying, I'm going to review the episode Her tomorrow. I'll be watching it either now or in the morning. And I'll try to see if we can have some other topics also. And on Tuesday, I'll be reviewing the fantastic episode of the real Star Trek episode, Space Seed.
Yes. No arguments there. It's not real Star Trek. We know Ricardo Montalban wasn't actually a Sikh.
So
But
Spacey actually it debuted on this day.
Yes, this is actually an anniversary
Sweet.
but I'm looking forward to that, and I'm going to do my best to do a double bill of Space Seed and Rathacon and check that out. Daniel's Hot Topics, welcome. I'm going to watch this in the morning. Picard is awesome.
Oh,
well,
yes.
Thanks,
Thank
Daniel.
you. Thank you, Daniel, for watching on the replay, and anyone else who does, also any lurkers.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I guess we will see you next week. Did I have a sign-off catchphrase for Set to Stun?
I don't think so.
All right, Jill, what would you say at the end of a Star Trek show?
What?
Hailing frequencies closed.